72-hour time window, that's when we start to see the better small scale instances where we can really like hone in on the timing a little better. Wednesday looks to be more so morning activity. Thursday, hit and miss variety showers and storms during the afternoon, just kind of bubbling up with the daytime heating. Friday right now leans a little bit more towards the afternoon hour, so we could have a little bit of delay in play potential on Friday for round 2 of play. I think it's more hit and miss variety stuff coming up here Saturday, Sunday that we'll just have to kind of watch and see as we go through the course of the next couple of days.
All right, meteorologist Patrick Ellis kicking us off on the digital desk. Patrick, thank you.
No problem.
All right, let's get another look here at ActionNews5.com. Our homepage, you can see it here, talking about all the top stories that we have for you from the weekend here, including some of the Olympic stories here with Shelby McEwen winning silver in the Olympic men's high jump. I ended up watching that live. It was so exciting for him, and great to see a silver medal going to Abbeville, Mississippi, and the native there, Shelby McEwen there. Great to see. Also want to point you to our pull-down menu, the digital desk pull-down menu. You can see all of our interviews here and watch them in its entirety. And you can also share them with people on social media, through email, and through text messages as well. All right, we're going to take a short break here as we go back live outside to our High Five camera downtown. Just a gorgeous start to the day. 73 degrees, too. We'll be talking more about our forecast in addition to other news of the day in 1 minute. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. One of the top stories we had this morning on Action News 5 was about this issue with Whitehaven STEM and the program not being funded properly by the district. According to some, Action News 5's Tavarius Haywood has more on that.
The project is expected to cost about $9 million, which most of that money is expected to come from private donors. About $2.3 million is expected to come from MSCS, but they have not sent that money yet. The school district's own policy prevents building projects from moving forward until all of the funds are secured. That's why Shelby County Commissioner Edmund Ford Jr. says he's going to take steps to force this forward. Commissioner Ford introduced a resolution demanding that MSCS give the $2.3 million they promised from their education fund. Now, there are concerns if this doesn't happen, donors might start pulling their funding, which one Whitehaven alumni said would be extremely detrimental to Whitehaven.
To kill this right now would clearly say to the community and say to our youth, well, maybe you're okay. Maybe we believe in you, but then again, maybe not. That is not a message that you want to convey to students that are trying, to parents that are trying to provide a better opportunity in life for their children.
In a statement, MSCS said, we anticipate this matter being resolved very soon and look forward to construction of a new STEM building that is up to code and ready to service the Whitehaven community. MSCS did not give an exact date as to when this would be resolved. In the meantime, Commissioner Ford plans to present this in front of the commission sometimes Monday morning. Tavarius Haywood, Action News 5.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. It is the world's largest and most powerful space telescope. Today marks the second anniversary of the Webb science operations, and what a better way than to celebrate some amazing images of the universe. Let's talk about that and much more with a NASA astrophysicist. I'm joined now by Dr. Mark Clampett. He's Director of Astrophysics at NASA. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to this interview. I'm excited to hear about the James Webb Telescope. I've been following this for a while. I used to cover the NASA program when I worked down in Orlando. But I'm excited to see what kind of images. Tell me about this second anniversary and what it means for space, NASA, and everyone that's excited about this. Good morning.
Good morning. So we're really excited to unveil this second anniversary image from Webb. It's a very special subject for us. What you're seeing is two merging galaxies, and Webb's special infrared sort of insights into what's going on here. So this object has long been known to astronomers as the penguin in the egg. And if you look at it, you can kind of see why. On the right, you see this sort of white egg-like structure, which is, a galaxy composed of very old stars. And on the right, you have this very strange-looking structure that sort of resembles the shape and appearance of a penguin. And what's happening here is you're seeing two very large galaxies merging and combining. And the galaxy on the right, once upon a time, was a spiral galaxy, just like our own galaxy. But as it merges with this other galaxy, it's being torn apart by the gravitational forces. And as that happens, gas and stars are being pulled out of this spiral galaxy, and they then collide into each other and trigger more star formation. And that's why you see all these beautiful filaments in the right-hand image. This is a key and important step in the evolution of galaxies, and this is how we get supermassive galaxies, through these mergers of what are already very massive objects.
I loved looking at that. I appreciate you sharing that penguin and the egg image there.
Yes.
How old is that? A lot of times for our audience out there, and we have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk, a lot of time these images are very, very old because it's so far away. Is that the case here, or is it closer?
So the particular object we're looking at is about 300 million light years from our solar system. And this merger has been going on, we think, for probably around 75 million years. So you're seeing kind of a sort of a key point in the sort of cataclysm is the merger of these two objects, but it will go on for much longer.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Mark. Let's talk about the James Webb Telescope in general. I mean, it's been 2 years now. It's revolutionized our universe. Tell us some of the revolutionary findings that have happened so far in these 2 years.
So Webb has been doing science across a very broad range of different astrophysics problems, but the reason we built Webb was to really try to study the very first galaxies that formed in the universe and understand what happened all the way back to that very beginning as the first galaxies started to form. And we've been able to see back to that era with the James Webb Space Telescope. So we're seeing galaxies that are 300 million years after the Big Bang, and we're finding a lot of surprises. So Webb's telling us that these galaxies are much bigger, massive, and brighter than we had expected from our theory and our models. So as we go forward, Webb is going to help us understand exactly what's going on here. Why are these galaxies getting so big so quickly? Is it black holes, or is it some other physical process at work? We've also been able to start to really understand how stars are born as well. So we're able with Webb to look inside dust clouds. You remember these beautiful dust clouds that have been observed with Hubble. With Webb's infrared vision, we can actually see inside these dust clouds and actually study the stars that are being born in these clouds. And that's very important because there are so many in there. We can study and follow the evolution and birth of these stars from very young ones to ones that already have planetary systems. And that's a key part of understanding where our own planetary system originally came from as well. And then I think that for me, one of the really exciting things is that for the very first time, we can start to study the chemistry of the atmospheres of planets around other stars outside our own solar system and see how that compares to what we know about our own solar system.
It's fascinating stuff. I mean, in addition to some incredible images and some incredible video that you're sharing with us, Mark, the kind of science that's developed and that's studied with the James Webb Telescope is incredibly fascinating to me. Is there a hope that we learn something maybe more profound in the lifetime of this telescope?
Absolutely. I think as we put together the pieces of what happened at the very beginning of the formation of galaxies in the universe, that really will tell us how the universe started and how galaxies first formed. And right now we still have a lot of gaps. We don't really understand what's going on there. And Webb is really providing us with these new insights that will give us what I think is very, very profound view of what happened at the beginning as these first galaxies formed. It's also going to allow us to really understand the range of planets around other stars in our own solar system. We already know there's something like 5,000 planets around other stars that we've been able to confirm. And for the very first time with Webb, we can actually start to make a very serious study of a large number of these. And that then allows us to really understand more about how our own solar system formed and basically how you get habitable planets that life could have formed on.
I love looking at those images right there, Mark. And, I'm curious because, science at times and scientists can be pretty entrenched in what they believe. Since the James Webb Telescope was launched, has there been a change in any theories or anything that's, been thought of one way, but the James Webb Telescope made us think another way?
I think, again, coming back to the very early stages of the birth of the universe, we certainly had a picture of what we thought was happening. And the first Webb observations are telling us that there are clearly gaps in our understanding and that we have to make more observations with Webb to really piece together exactly what's going on there and how these first galaxies formed and evolved. So it's really creating, I think, new mysteries that we can solve with this telescope as we make more observations.
How long is the tenure, the lifetime of a James Webb Telescope? And I understand it's working kind of in conjunction with other telescopes to explore the universe, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So Webb is 1 million miles from Earth, and it uses propellant to stay in the orbit that it's in. So we estimate right now that it will stay there, be able to stay there and maintain its orbit for about 20 years. It also works in partnership with other NASA missions. So the Hubble Space Telescope observes in the visible, and other telescopes like Chandra observe in the X-rays. So a good example of how we put stories together and really understand what's going on. One of these very first galaxies that we've been studying with the Webb telescope has been found by Chandra to be emitting X-rays that are consistent with a black hole at the center of this galaxy. So that's telling us more about the puzzle of what's going on there. So these telescopes all work in concert to provide different pieces of a puzzle and help us understand as a whole what's going on when we look at a particular problem.
Fantastic. I really enjoy this conversation, Mark. I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I find it exciting and fascinating. Is there anything else you want to mention to our audience that maybe you haven't mentioned yet about this anniversary, James Webb Telescope, what to expect in the future? Anything else?
I think a couple of things. So one thing I'll say is, somebody asked me a few days ago, do you ever get, tired of looking at these images? And I think it's fair to say I certainly don't. Every time I see a new image from Webb, I'm just blown away. And I think that's really something that all of the people using Webb data, all of our astrophysics community feel when they look at their Webb data that's just been downloaded. They're always both shocked, surprised, amazed, and usually spend a lot of time just looking at the images before they actually think about what they have to do with them. So it continues to really shock us and provide wonder at what's going on out there in the universe. The other thing I would just say is I really encourage people to go to the nasa.gov/web site and take a look at some of the other images, and we have lots of data there that you can look at was taken by Webb, and there's very detailed explanations of the science that's being done with those images.
He is the Director of Astrophysics with NASA, Dr. Mark Clampett, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk about these new breathtaking images from the James Webb Telescope. Mark, thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Congratulations on all the success of the telescope. And we look forward to having you and some of your colleagues on in the future. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't work out.
We go praise on that.
We got the kids back in school. They're starting to learn stuff, and parents and grandparents everywhere are rejoicing. Yay, they're back in school. Good. What about their health when they're out on the competition field, when they are competing with others? You want them to do as best as possible. You want them to be great and achieve greatness. But what about the safety and the health of your student athlete? Okay, especially with the heat that we all see here in Memphis and the Mid-South. Let's bring in someone to talk more about it right now. I'm joined by Kyle Lubrano. She is a member of Players Health. It's a sports insurance company, joining us on the digital desk. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us here. So where do parents, student athletes, where do they make the biggest mistake when it comes to staying healthy during their competitions? Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, thanks for having me. So a couple things. The first one would be, I think we don't acclimate the athletes back into the activity, right? So, they've probably been indoors a little bit trying to beat the heat. They've been in pools, and so we kind of throw them back out on the field and expect them to go full force right away. And so, really, we'd want them to start off with some, shorter sessions, speaking, particularly around the coaching aspect and kind of acclimating them right back into it in terms of, maybe shorter sessions to start with, not if they're, if we're talking about football in particular, doing, no equipment to start, shorter sessions leading into larger sessions as they get acclimated. It can take up to 2 weeks to be fully acclimated to the heat. So in preparation for that, parents can really start to get their kids outdoors, maybe go out, depending on what sport. If it's soccer, kick around with them. If it's running, obviously they're going to want to have been running leading up to the preseason.
Great. Great. That is a great point. And, it gets so hot here in Memphis in the Mid-South, especially this time of year in the month of August and even in parts of September. And I guess when it comes to hydrating, that's something you need to be cognizant of no matter what, right?
Yes, yeah. So as we send them back out into the heat, they should be hydrating frequently. So making sure that they have their water bottle with ice, and sometimes, depending on how hot it is and how long the session is going to be, making sure they have two water bottles. It should be where the coaches know that the heat is going to, make them need to take water breaks more often. So every 20 minutes or so, there should be a water break. And, you know, I, as a parent, I often have the discussion with my child. If you really feel like you need to take a break to get water, just, excuse yourself really quickly, go get it. We really shouldn't be denying water. And then before and after, right? So the day before, we're making sure that they are hydrating enough. And then after, and obviously, this is probably more for more elite sports or high school sports like football. Weighing yourself before and after. Obviously, we're not going to have our 7 and 8 year olds weighing themselves, but before weighing yourself before and after to see how much fluid you've actually lost, and then making sure that we're replacing that.
Yeah, no, that's all great advice. I mean, both my kids played youth sports. They're now in college, and so staying hydrated, acclimating the right way. Are there signs that parents and grandparents should watch for when their kid perhaps gets in trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a difference obviously between dehydration and heat stroke, and both are obviously very serious and lead to further complications if that are if they're not dealt with. So, hydrating won't necessarily prevent heat stroke. And heat stroke is when the core temperature of the body gets too high, and we need to start to cool that down. But there's signs, and one being, obviously if the child is younger, they may be a little bit more irritable. They could have symptoms kind of resembling the flu, where they are dizzy, lethargic. They could be pale. They could be excessively sweating, vomiting. And so just really being diligent around noticing those things with your child, um, and listen to them if they're telling you that, they don't feel well. Obviously, we don't want to send them back out into the field if we're, doing, two sessions a day. Just making sure that we are, listening and watching for those signs is key.
No question. And, a lot of times they'll come home, especially in those first few practices where they're going to be a little bit sore, they're going to be a little bit more tired. Anything else that we should be watching for just to ensure that they're on the right path, that it's no big deal and they should continue to go to practice?
Yeah, and obviously, I think depending on the age, some kids will want to get out of practice, but I would say, just watching, making sure that they are taking care of themselves, right? I think this is one thing that we're a little bit more educated in this area. We're not in the 1980s and the 1990s where we just say, you just go out and do whatever you can, eat whatever in between. We really need to be making sure that we're developing the whole athlete, right? And so that means not only doing your job on the field, but off the field, right? And so they should be not only hydrating, eating well, eating, foods like fruits and vegetables that have a lot of water in them. And then also just, making sure that they're getting enough rest in between, and making sure that, if they are out in the sun in an outdoor sport, that in between sessions, they are, resting inside in the air conditioning, or if they don't have access to inside, sitting in the shade, just not overexerting themselves. And then sleeping at night, making sure that they are getting their rest. And that's where our bodies recover and repair muscle deterioration. So I think, just also paying attention to what your child is telling you, and just generally their appetite to go out for more. I think one thing that we really need to be worried about is the biggest risk factor is really just those that are super excited to please us. And so they're over motivated And that is probably the biggest risk factor in this, that they're going to overdo it, right? We wouldn't send somebody out to run a marathon without having trained for it. So those that are over motivated will kind of put themselves in this position to kind of either get dehydrated or suffer from heat stroke.
Kyle, this has been great. We've certainly given a lot of information out there to our viewers. We have thousands that watch us each and every morning. Is there a place online where people can go and really kind of look at these various aspects that you've talked about this morning?
Yeah, there's a ton of research out there. I mean, I think if a quick Google search of, like heat stroke symptoms or how to, make sure that you're taking care of young athletes in the heat, you can pull up a lot of variety from different, the Mayo Clinic, different, Cleveland Clinic. And then also I would say, just make sure, whatever organization you are part of, that they have a heat stroke and heat illness policy. And so there's a lot of information out there specific to this that you can, quick Google search will be able to pull up all the information that you need to be able to find on this.
All right, Kyle Labrano, thank you so much for joining us on the Digital Desk and giving us that information, which is vital, especially this time of year. We appreciate it. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There was a new survey. It was a national survey from Discover, and it said 80% of American consumers are anxious about their financial situation. That doesn't surprise me. We've seen this all across Memphis and the Mid-South time and again. Some of the factors involved: high inflation, everyday expenses, the economy, income, debt. Those are among the top stressors fueling the anxiety. Again, this is due to a national survey here from Discover. Financial stress is severe. Let's talk about ways to reduce that stress that we have so often in this economy and in this world that we live in. I'm joined right now by Dan Nickel, VP of Discover Personal Loans, joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. So, Dan, good morning to you. Tell me more about this national survey. I think it was your group that put it together.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. You mentioned the headline. 80% of Americans are feeling some level of financial anxiety. Perhaps not surprising, but it is certainly something we'd like to see come down over time. And unfortunately, that number has remained consistently high for the last 3 years. That 80% number is virtually the same result we've had for 3 years running. And at the top of the factors that are contributing to financial stress are high inflation and high everyday expenses, two things that are very closely associated with one another.
They certainly are. And where do you think, Dan, that people make their biggest mistakes when it comes to, financial anxiety and making things worse? Where do people go wrong?
I think being unprepared is one thing. Ideally, everyone would have an emergency fund. But the other thing, if they're already in debt, is not believing that they can get out of it. So our survey found that 1/3 of Americans don't expect to ever get out of debt. And that's quite discouraging. I'm more of an optimist, and I believe that there's quite a bit that people can do, from making a budget, but also to potentially taking out a consolidation loan that might allow them to lower the rate that they're paying on their debt so they can get out of it faster.
Yes, I've heard that. That is a great idea and suggestion. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some ways to minimize that stress, that anxiety that we all have, or many of us have, I should say, around our financial situation, Dan.
Yeah, so we found that Gen Z, for example, 42% of them don't even want to look at their financial statements or their bank statements. That's not going to be a winning strategy. So you have to get out your bank statements and you have to start with a solid budget. You want to have a good understanding of everything that's coming in, of course, but also where it's going so that you can put those dollars to work as hard as they can for you. And if possible, eliminating expenses is going to allow you to allocate more of your hard-earned income towards paying down debt. That's the key. You got to put more towards debt so you can get out of debt faster.
So does that mean, I know some people out there that, they'll say, well, I have this huge car payment and I have this mortgage that I got to pay and I got 3 kids and they have their expenses. And so I need to take a second or a third job. I mean, what do you tell someone like that? We have thousands of people that watch here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, Dan, and they're probably wondering a little bit of the same. Where do we begin?
Yeah, I think that stress is understandable. It's been challenging. Incomes have not kept pace with the rising costs out there. And so you have to be prepared and you have to understand your options. That's what I tell people is that they can do it. And they want to look at ways that they can reduce the cost of their debt and be prepared for anything that might come at them in an unexpected way. A water heater can go out at any minute. You have to have a plan so that you're ready to confront those things and not put yourself into a deeper hole.
Okay, so if we're doing bullet points right here, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the top bullet point needs to be create a cash reserve account. And that's for any kind of emergencies out there. Take me through maybe 2 more or 3 more bullet points.
Yeah, so an emergency fund is going to give you that cushion for when something comes. That's the top of the list. The next thing is to make a budget. There's so many different budgeting strategies out there, and there's different ways to go about it. But look up the one that you feel most comfortable with, pull out a pencil and paper, and understand each line item of your personal balance sheet. The next thing is to look for opportunities within that budget to allocate more money towards debt. And then the last thing I would say is to look for opportunities to reduce the interest rate you're paying on any debt. A consolidation loan is a great way to potentially get that win.
I like it. I like it. These are tangible options for our audience out there to start reducing debt and reducing that financial anxiety. Anything else you want to mention, Dan, before we let you go that you haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, what I would say is that when you're choosing a provider for a personal loan, you want to make sure that you pick one with no origination fee. An origination fee erodes how much of the cash from that loan you get in your pocket that you could put towards debt payments. And so if you took out a $20,000 loan and it had an origination fee, you might only get $18,000 in your pocket, but you'd be tasked with paying back the full $20,000. So look for a provider that's going to offer a loan with no origination fee. Discover Personal Loans is proud to offer such a product, and your audience can check their rate without any impact to their credit score at discoverpersonalloans.com.
DiscoverPersonalLoans.com. Managing debt, reducing financial anxiety. Dan Nickel, VP of Discover Personal Loans. Really appreciate the tangible options that you gave us here. Great news you can use. Thanks so very much for coming on the Digital Desk. We appreciate it. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. We love all things Memphis Botanic Garden, and I'm bringing in Gina Harris right now, the Director of Education and Events, to talk about some fall youth programming events for everybody across Memphis and the Mid-South. Gina, good morning. Tell me about it.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, welcome. We're actually sitting out here in my big backyard, which is our family garden here at Memphis Botanic Garden. And we have all kinds of different programs. I know all the kids are sad that it's the end of summer and we got to go back to school, but that means we also have lots of fun stuff happening here for them. So we've got our Caterpillar Club. So if you have little ones that aren't in school yet, this is for ages 2 to 5. So kind of that first time to introduce the little ones to an outdoor experience, an outdoor space. And this year we're going to be focusing on my big backyard. So each week, the kids will get to go around and explore my big backyard and explore the different areas of it and learn some new fun nature facts and activities within each different neighborhood in my big backyard. And that is going to be, you can choose a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it's every other week. It'll be September through November for that one. So you'll meet twice a month, September through November. And it's a lot of fun for parents, caregivers. You can bring those little ones. You register on our website. This one sells out fast, though. It's really popular. Miss Kristen is our instructor for that one. A lot of the kids know her from Flower Tot Storytime. And some of these kids have been coming here from the age of 2 all the way till 5 when they start school. So that's a really fun one for the little ones to enjoy.
Okay, and so that is that the Caterpillar Club that you're talking from ages 2 to 5?
Right. Yes, that's
Excellent.
the Caterpillar Club for that one. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So in
what
addition,
else you got?
Yes, so we also have our homeschool days. So if you are a homeschool family, we have programs for you as well. Those are going to be on Mondays, once a month from September through December. And again, these are just ways to explore. This semester is going to be all about plants and what it takes to grow plants. So we'll be talking about weather and sunshine and how that helps plants. You're going to be talking about the different parts of the plants and how we even eat some of those different parts, from the stems to the roots to the leaves to the fruits. And so each different class is on there. You can register for that as well on our website. And that one again is going to be September through December on Mondays.
That sounds amazing. You know, I can remember even going back to when I was, little and exploring nature at that time frame and just in that time of your life. It's just so cool. It's interesting. It's new. It's fun. And the Botanic Garden's a great place to do it.
Yeah, there's so many different memories that people have of their childhood, and a lot of those do happen outdoors. Sometimes it's digging in the mud, it's pulling up those worms, it's seeing a bird that you've never seen for the first time, all of those fun experiences. And so we also have something for if you are in school and you still want to have some of those fun experiences, you can come to our after school garden club. This is a new one that we're going to be starting. It's going to happen right here in my big backyard, over towards my little garden, and the guest house will be kind of our classroom space. That is going to begin in September, and it'll go September and October. It's a 6-week program, and it's where kids can learn a little bit more. This is for the older ones, like 7 through 12-year-olds. And you can come to this 6-week program and learn about how to start your own garden. Why is it important to have a garden? What are the things that gardens provide for us, for our food, our clothing? So many things, really everything in our daily lives depends on plants. And so this garden club will be an after-school garden club from 4 to 6. The kids will get to come over here after school, burn a little energy, digging in the dirt, learning some of these different things, planting their own plants down in the garden, and then being able to take that home so that they can do it with their family and share that information with their family. And then we hope they all come out and visit the garden.
That sounds awesome. And so you have stuff from 2 to 5 years old. You got 7 to 12 years old with the Garden Club. The homeschooling days, is that 6-year-old and up? Is there an age cutoff for that?
So that one is an all ages. It's a 6 to 12. We do have older siblings that come as well. We kind of split the kids up into the younger ones and the older ones, and that way they can do the age appropriate activities, and everything is geared towards their different age levels.
Okay, and so registration is now open, right? And how much does it cost?
Yes. Yeah, if you visit our website, each of the different programs has a different price point, but if you go to our website, membg.org, all of these different programs are going to be available. The information and the schedule of these is going to be on our website, where you can check that out and get signed up. And again, sign up quick, because a lot of these things sell out. It's really popular. And again, like you said, we have things from the 2-year-olds all the way up to the middle school, high school age. But even the parents end up learning some fun facts and neat things to be able to take home with them. So it's learning for everybody.
membg.org. All right, Memphis Botanic Gardens website. Gina Harris, we really appreciate the info. Thank you so much for letting us know about it now that the programming is out there and the registration is now open. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There is a new study that reveals that many patients are still paying out of pocket to prepare for a colonoscopy. In other words, they are paying for that medication, if you will, that extremely powerful laxative in order to prep your body for a colonoscopy. And there is a group out there that is trying to change all that. I'm joined right now by Chris Evans. She is a Colon Cancer Coalition president and is someone that is fighting to reduce barriers for colonoscopies, and one of which would be that medicine that you take beforehand. Chris, good morning to you. Tell me exactly what you and others are fighting for. Good morning.
Good morning. We know that colonoscopy prevents or detects colon cancer at very early stages, but that's only when the colonoscopy is a clean colon, and that's what your prep is for. And so it's an integral part of that colonoscopy to have that prep. And most patients don't know they have choices in prep. There are so many out there on the market, and that some are readily uncovered by insurance, and some of them are not covered at all by insurance. So this is what we're trying to get the message out there.
Why would some be covered by insurance and not others? Is it just because it's too expensive?
Well, all of them are supposed to be, except for the over-the-counter, which is very commonly prescribed. So that's kind of our point, is that every patient can tolerate a different kind of prep. There's 4-liter preps, there's 2-liter preps, there's pill form. There's all kinds of choices, and depending on your situation as a patient, you're going to like and tolerate one of those better than the other. So that's what we want to get out there, is for people to talk to their doctors and really find out which one's the best, and it all should be covered by insurance.
Yeah, I have to say I had one recently, and the preparation for it, I remember I did have to pay, but it was like a copay. That insurance did pay for a portion of that laxative or whatever it was that cleans you out. They did pay for a portion of it, so it was a nominal fee, maybe $10, $15. Would you like to see like no fee at all? Is that what you're talking about?
No fee. You're lucky enough that you have insurance and that you're able to cover that. But we experience patients who have so many barriers to colonoscopy with transportation, childcare, time off work, just everything economic like that, that we don't want any cost because it's an integral part of this test. You cannot have a good colonoscopy without a good prep.
Gotcha. So tell me what you and your coalition are going to do to move forward with this.
So we're kind of working legislatively. We know that the ACA said this has to be paid for, and it's just kind of falling through the cracks. I think with that copay, like it's a medication versus part of a screening colonoscopy, and we want people to. This is a piece of the screening colonoscopy. It is an umbrella. It is the same. It is not different, and it should be paid for fully. So we're working towards that, and we're also working to get the word out through your listeners to have that, to advocate for themselves, to demand that from their colonoscopy provider.
Okay, so we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk. Anything that you would like them to do? Is there a place where they can go online?
You can always get a hold of us at www.coloncancercoalition.org. We have lots of information about colon cancer and about our events. And in there, there's an info line. If you need some help, email us. We'll get involved. Just really think about the prep, not just the test. The test sort of overwhelms your mind when you have to go for a colonoscopy. And so then step back a minute, think about the prep, and think about asking those questions, whether you're diabetic, whether you can't tolerate large volumes of liquid, whether pills make you can't swallow pills. There's all kinds of really good considerations to not take the prep as a sideline. It's actually the main part of the test. And so let's talk about it. Let's get it the right thing for you, what you tolerate and what you can afford.
Okay, Chris Evans, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much for the info, the knowledge, and good luck with your coalition's push to make it all paid for by insurance. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas, and living with eczema. If you have it, or perhaps you have a family member that does, it can be so difficult and so very frustrating for those caught in that relentless cycle of chasing flares and the redness and the itchiness and the rashes that occur. And they can occur anywhere all over the body. The good news is there is a brand new once daily steroid-free cream that can really help manage and help control eczema so you can enjoy your summer and all throughout the year, all the months throughout the year. Let's bring in a board-certified dermatologist to talk about this new once daily cream. I'm joined now by Dr. Adam Friedman. He is on the Digital Desk, and Doctor, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about this issue and not only the issue of eczema, living with it and some of the difficulties, but this new breakthrough. Good morning.
Good morning. No, thanks so much for having me here. And you teed it up perfectly. This is one of the most common chronic relapsing inflammatory skin diseases that also commonly imparts a horrific impact on quality of life and also skin. And To your point that it can occur anywhere on the body and the spectrum of clinical presentations is so diverse, making the right diagnosis can be a challenge. And so for me, one of the helpful clues when trying to distinguish this from other things, the itch of atopic dermatitis really stands out as an itch that feels amazing to scratch, but not so amazing because that scratching will actually make the condition worse, but also add a level of ostracism because people will say, well, just don't scratch, you'll get better. And that's absolutely not true. And that actually adds to the burden of disease by saying something like that. So that's why I've partnered with Arcutis to really raise awareness about the condition, but also to your point, talk about new options that can really get this under control.
Okay, so let's talk about that, doctor, because we know that the summer months, that's kind of when a lot of people that live with eczema, those that condition tends to flare up, doesn't it?
It can, so the physical heat, which we've had plenty of, the sweating that ensues, but also products we use to protect ourselves from the sun and from bugs, all of those can uniquely worsen active disease or even wake it up to begin with. But this is a year-round problem. Different elements, different environmental factors can trigger this. So patients are worrying about the next flare even during a flare, which absolutely sounds horrible. That's a really horrible way to live in terms of foreseeing when this is even going to get worse. And the summer can certainly do that.
So let's talk about ways that people can care for their skin if they have eczema throughout the year, whether it's winter, summer, spring, fall, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's some basic rules that apply year-round for everyone. First is limit soap use and make sure you're using a soap that is meant for someone with eczema. It actually will say it on the bottle. More importantly, apply a moisturizer to damp skin, to trap water into the skin, as dry skin is a central piece of this condition, and your skin needs a little bit of water in there for it to make itself correctly. Now, these are great, but often don't cut it. And that's where FDA-approved medications, whether it be topical or even systemic, meaning they work from the inside out, can be extraordinarily impactful. And the most recent one that was just approved is called Zoryve or Roflumilast, 0.15% cream that is indicated for once-a-day use for mild to moderate eczema for those 6 and up. And remember, this affects so many ages. It's important to have options that can be used across that spectrum.
Where can people go to learn more information about this new medication, maybe some of the side effects? Are there any, by the way, and where can they go?
Yeah, so first off, easy answer. You can go to Zoryve, ZORYVE.com for more information about the medication and atopic dermatitis. In terms of safety, overall, very well tolerated. The most common side effects included headache, nausea, and site application pain. But this only occurred in roughly a few % of those studied. And we're talking about a study over 1,000 people in number. So when you have a study that size, it gives you a lot of confidence about the data with respect to how a drug will behave in individuals suffering with this condition.
Anything else, Dr. Freeman, you'd like to mention with regards to living with eczema, how to take care of your skin, this new medication? Anything else?
Yeah, I think this is the era of eczema. Just 10, 15 years ago, we had very limited options, and now there's so much attention being paid to this condition. Also, it's important to note that someone suffering eczema is not on their own island. This condition can affect the entire family because of its impact on sleep, school, job, you name it. So getting it under control and maintaining that control is of the utmost importance for everyone.
Okay, Dr. Adam Freeman, board-certified dermatologist, we appreciate your time. Thank you for illuminating us to some of the new treatments for eczema and best practices. We appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. The use of illegal vapes is still very much a serious problem, especially when it comes to kids in high school. We're talking about teens, adolescents. They use these disposable e-cigs from China, and they have an extraordinary amount of concentrations of nicotine. They're highly addictive, and they're appealing to these kids and adolescents because of their appearance. They look like toys, they're school supplies, and they have all these different flavors. So how do we combat this? Because right now, according to a study since 2019, 60% of youth, high school kids, okay, reported using these disposable e-cigarettes. It's an awful situation. I know so many parents firsthand that have struggled to deal with this issue. Let's bring in someone to help us and discuss this in detail. I'm joined right now by Rich Marianos, a former ATF deputy director. He's joining us on the digital desk. Rich, thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk about this problem first off. Let's just kind of outline the problem, how pervasive it is, and how much of an epidemic it is. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning. Let's just go with the statistics of what you said earlier. If 6 out of 10 kids are using it right now, it is a huge problem, especially right now with a new school year. We've seen in the last 5 years a 2,000% increase among young adults that are addicted to these vape products, and now they're going to be going into schools. Almost zombies is what I say. So addictive with products like Tyson's Heavyweight 1000 Puff Mango Cherry version, not manufactured by industry, manufactured by Chinese organized crime. But this addiction creates a disruption which affects our school system, our parental duties, school resource officers, our administrators. And if we don't grab a hold of Chinese organized crime that's involved in this, the problem will just become more and more severe every day going into this year.
How are these kids, because, you know, I mean, both my kids are in college and they were in high school, and they would tell me certain bathrooms in the high school where these kids would vape and you know, have these flavors, cotton candy, creme brulee, that sort of thing. How do these kids, first off, get these products? Are they being sold everywhere? And why isn't there a crackdown on this kind of thing?
Well, let's start first. How are they getting it? A lot of it is through the websites and social media, or illicit vape shops that are selling it directly to the kids that aren't paying attention to the laws. They're not paying attention to any regulations, and they're actually putting out poison, unregulated Chinese poison, to our children. What we need to be cognizant of and understand that this is our #1 threat of national security. It's another vehicle for Chinese organized crime to come in, make more money on the backs of America, and go after our greatest resource, which is our children.
So bad, Rich. It just infuriates me as a parent and what my kids have told me about the epidemic and the problem that they see firsthand. So we've identified, you know, this problem and how large it is. So let's talk about solutions for all those parents, the grandparents, family members out there.
Well, you brought it up a little bit earlier, and we need better enforcement. We need the government to pay attention to what's going on. We need states to develop a registry to what is illegal in terms of also what is legal for tobacco harm reduction. When these products first came out, the good ones are designed to get people away from combustibles, but the bad ones are now addicting our children. We need enforcement. We need to be giving the laws the tools, directories for law enforcement to go and put these vape shops out of business, to disrupt the supply chain, and understand that organized crime hits everyone. It's time that we hit back, and as a community, as a society, hit back in taking these out of the marketplace and making it safer for our young adults.
You know, I couldn't agree more, Rich, especially when you talk about, you know, this poison, for lack of a better term. I mean, we have no idea what's in this stuff. And, you know, no matter where it's marketed, I mean, we have no idea what's in that the long-lasting effects of some of that liquid, that vape liquid. Are there any places any states that, from your best vantage point, that do it right in terms of law enforcement, cracking down, anything like that? And if so, can we talk about them? Or if not, let's come up with some ideas and how we can push this to our state lawmakers.
The best strategy are those that have registries that are working in concert with their law enforcement partners and coming up with a solution, working with their schools, identifying the delivery system that these young adults are using to sneak it, and then going out there again to arrest and disrupt the marketplace. Enforcement works. It always has worked, but let's go after the bad guys in the marketplace. Let's understand what the problem is and understand that the ones that are FDA approved are good for those who want to curtail combustible smoking. Everything else, it's a crime to possess, sell, and we need to get it out of the hands of our kids and enforce the government, not just to use the FDA, but give local law enforcement their tools to enforce it. The FDA is trying, but sending letters and going out there without a structured strategic plan is not the solution. We need a real law enforcement agency and real police to get behind this, to go after, again, our largest national security threat, and that is Chinese organized crime.
I think a lot of parents and grandparents, Rich, are saying, hey, can you say it louder for the people in the back? You know, we have thousands of people watching us each and every morning here on the digital desk. If they want to do something and they agree 100% with what you're saying, what would you recommend they do?
First thing, let's go on our website, website put together with some partners, illegalvapes.com, that has all the information on good practices, even failed practices, good articles, bad articles, but it gives the picture of how to do this and how to do it right and create a holistic approach. We can't do this in a vacuum. Our politicians have to. They must work with the school system. They must work with the parents. They must get involved in the community and hear what the biggest problems are. You talked about the bathroom vape location. They need to understand that some of these schools have locations where these kids know to go that are unsupervised, and it's a problem, it's a threat. They need to work together in this, what I call the holistic approach, rather than make these decisions in the vacuum. And then further, if it's the FDA, ATF, if it's local police, whoever it may be, that they need to use resources to target this problem.
Totally agree there. Illegalvapes.com. Anything else you want to mention this morning, Rich, we haven't touched on you feels important? It's truly an epidemic that we need to crack down on and get under control.
Parents need to understand that this is a terrible issue. It is affecting the way our kids are developing, how their brains are developing by the use of these illegal vape products. And they also need to take a stronger approach. Some can't just brush it away that my kids aren't in gangs, my kids aren't using drugs. If vape is the only problem, it's okay, I'll live with it. That's the wrong response. It's the wrong attitude. And they need to take a more aggressive approach to jump in and realize that a product that's manufactured for kids by organized crime needs to be taken very, very seriously. And it's not only a threat to public safety, but it's a threat to public health.
Illegalvapes.com. Rich Marianos, former ATF Deputy Director. We really appreciate this discussion this morning on the Digital Desk. Thank you for letting us know about not only your website, but also best practices to crack down on this awful epidemic that's affecting so many teens and adolescents out there. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share the correct information out there.
You got it. All right. Another live look from our High Five camera here from Midtown Memphis, 75 degrees, 10 minutes after 8. Your forecast in 60 seconds.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Our temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first look futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in. That will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower or thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena. Going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
Digital Desk. People of color living with plaque psoriasis have been underrepresented in so many clinical research studies. There is now a study that's dedicated specifically to people of color with skin and scalp moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. And I'm joined right now by one of the investigators of this study, Dr. Mona Shehryari, joining us on the Digital Desk to talk more about this study and what we can gain from it. Good morning, Dr. Shehryari. Tell us about this study and what you're seeing so far.
Well, thank you so much for having me this morning. So as you mentioned, historically, patients with skin of color have been underrepresented in clinical trials with numbers as low as 5%. So Johnson & Johnson, who I'm here on behalf of today to address this gap, actually partnered with researchers and clinicians on the VISIBLE study, which is the first dedicated skin of color and plaque psoriasis study evaluating Tremfya, an FDA-approved biologic for this disease across skin tones. And what we found were rapid and significant improvements in plaque psoriasis and skin of color, which helped solidify that effectiveness and safety of this medication in this disease. But it also showed us that 6 out of 10 patients had 90% improvement in their plaque psoriasis, which is huge for patients suffering from this condition. Now, this may not be the right medication for everyone, so I encourage patients to speak with their dermatologist about the benefits as well as the side effects of the medication. And to learn more, they can visit Tremfya.com.
Tell me, we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning on the Digital Desk. Can you tell us just an overview of what plaque psoriasis is and how it affects certain people in certain ways?
Absolutely. So plaque psoriasis is an autoimmune condition. It impacts about 8 million Americans, and it's characterized by an overproduction of skin cells on the elbows, knees, as well as the scalp and other areas, but it does present differently on different skin tones. So individuals with lighter skin might have red or pink plaques, while individuals with melanin-rich skin might have dark brown or violet plaques. And this can actually lead to delays in diagnosis in our patients with skin of color, but the burden of disease goes beyond what you can see. It can impact someone's emotional health as well as their quality of life, with those impacts being more significant in people with skin of color.
So if people want to check out some of the results of this study, how can they do that?
So if they go to Tremfya.com, they can not only see the results of the study, but learn more about what makes the VISIBLE study unique, and also look at pictures of what plaque psoriasis looks like across a variety of skin tones.
Anything else you want to mention with results, with the results coming out of this study, Doctor?
I think the most important thing I want the audience to remember is that there are a lot of unique challenges that patients with skin of color with plaque psoriasis face when it comes to being diagnosed as well as receiving a treatment. So I want patients to be empowered to talk to their dermatologist about the available treatment options, because everyone deserves to have access to high quality, equitable care.
Okay, Dr. Mona Shehryari joining us on the Digital Desk. We appreciate your time. Thanks so very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas, and living with eczema. If you have it, or perhaps you have a family member that does, it can be so difficult and so very frustrating for those caught in that relentless cycle of chasing flares and the redness and the itchiness and the rashes that occur and then they can occur anywhere all over the body. The good news is there is a brand new once daily steroid-free cream that can really help manage and help control eczema so you can enjoy your summer and all throughout the year, all the months throughout the year. Let's bring in a board-certified dermatologist to talk about this new once daily cream. I'm joined now by Dr. Adam Friedman. He is on the digital desk. And Doctor, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about this issue and not only the issue of eczema, living with it and some of the difficulties, but this new breakthrough. Good morning.
Good morning. No, thanks so much for having me here. And you teed it up perfectly. This is one of the most common chronic relapsing inflammatory skin diseases that also commonly imparts a horrific impact on quality of life and also skin. And to your point that it can occur anywhere on the body and the spectrum of clinical presentations is so diverse, making the right diagnosis can be a challenge. And so for me, one of the helpful clues when trying to distinguish this from other things, the itch of atopic dermatitis really stands out as an itch that feels amazing to scratch, but not so amazing because that scratching will actually make the condition worse, but also add a level of ostracism because people will say, well, just don't scratch, you'll get better. And that's absolutely not true. And that actually adds to the burden of disease by saying something like that. So that's why I've partnered with Arcutis to really raise awareness about the condition, but also to your point, talk about new options that can really get this under control.
Okay, so let's talk about that, Doctor, because we know that the summer months, that's kind of when a lot of people that live with eczema, those that condition tends to flare up, doesn't it?
It can, so the physical heat, which we've had plenty of, the sweating that ensues, but also products we use to protect ourselves from the sun and from bugs. All of those can uniquely worsen active disease or even wake it up to begin with. But this is a year-round problem. Different elements, different environmental factors can trigger this. So patients are worrying about the next flare even during a flare, which it absolutely sounds horrible. That's a really horrible way to live in terms of foreseeing when this is even going to get worse. And the summer can certainly do that.
So let's talk about ways that people can care for their skin if they have eczema throughout the year, whether it's winter, summer, spring, fall, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's some basic rules that apply year-round for everyone. First is limit soap use and make sure you're using a soap that is meant for someone with eczema. It actually will say it on the bottle. More importantly, apply a moisturizer to damp skin, to trap water into the skin, as dry skin is a central piece of this condition, and your skin needs a little bit of water in there for it to make itself correctly. Now, these are great, but often don't cut it. And that's where FDA-approved medications, whether it be topical or even systemic, meaning they work from the inside out, can be extraordinarily impactful. And the most recent one that was just approved is called Zoryve or Roflumilast, 0.15% cream that is indicated for once-a-day use for mild to moderate eczema for those 6 and up. And remember, this affects so many ages. It's important to have options that can be used across that spectrum.
Where can people go to learn more information about this new medication, maybe some of the side effects? Are there any, by the way, and where can they go?
Yeah, so first off, easy answer. You can go to Zoryve, ZORYVE.com for more information about the medication and atopic dermatitis. In terms of safety, overall, very well tolerated. The most common side effects included headache, nausea, and site application pain. But this only occurred in roughly a few % of those studied. And we're talking about a study over 1,000 people in number. So when you have a study that size, it gives you a lot of confidence about the data with respect to how a drug will behave in individuals suffering with this condition.
Anything else, Dr. Friedman, you'd like to mention with regards to living with eczema, how to take care of your skin, this new medication? Anything else?
Yeah, I think this is the era of eczema. Just 10, 15 years ago, we had very limited options, and now there's so much attention being paid to this condition. Also, it's important to note that someone suffering eczema is not on their own island. This condition can affect the entire family because of its impact on sleep, school, job, you name it. So getting it under control and maintaining that control is of the utmost importance for everyone.
Okay, Dr. Adam Friedman, board certified dermatologist, we appreciate your time. Thank you for illuminating us to some of the new treatments for eczema and best practices. We appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Hours temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first look futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in, that will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower, thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact the area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still, needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena, going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is a new book out that highlights one of the biggest stories of the Mid-South over the last 30 to 40 years, the West Memphis 3. I'm joined right now by Dan Stidham. He's a West Memphis 3 attorney joining us on the digital desk. And I understand, Dan, good morning to you. This story is about, untold aspects of the case West Memphis 3. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So anyway, so I understand that you wrote this book. It's called A Harvest of Innocence. Tell me some of the reasons why you wrote this book. There's been so much in the public domain about this case. It's certainly gone national with a number of different documentaries surrounding it. Tell me what's in this book and why you felt the need to write it.
Well, there's a lot of mythology out there about the case, and the way that it ended with the Alford plea created a lot of confusion. And I just wanted for there to be a true account of exactly what happened and how it happened and why it happened, and also continue my search for the real killer.
Okay, and we have thousands of people that watch us, Dan, on the Action News 5 digital desk, and I know most of them know about the West Memphis 3, but I want to just familiarize people with this case. This was something that happened on May 5th, 1993, where there were 3 8-year-old boys that had been murdered, and 3 teenage boys would spend 18 years behind bars for this crime. And we're talking about Jason Baldwin, Jesse Misskelley, Damian Echols, and they were dubbed the West Memphis 3. And there was all kinds of theories and thoughts about how there was this satanic, panic among people who thought that these 3 teenagers were the result of these 3 kids that passed away, that died in this brutal murder. And so your book, Harvest of Innocence, is the untold story of the West Memphis 3 murder case. That is the title of it. Tell me specifically what is untold about the murder case, Dan.
Well, there was a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that I couldn't talk about while the case was ongoing. I discovered things that had happened after the case was tried back in 1994 in January. And then I saw a pattern emerge of misconduct on the part of law enforcement and the prosecution. And in some ways, it seemed like there was collusion with the trial judge. And so looking back, I was startled when I saw that these things were unfolding. And so I started going back through my case file after I got it back and looking at things. And one of the things that I did is I received an entire copy on DVDs of both trials, and I went back and started watching. And some of the things that I saw were times when the court was in recess, but the judge was still on the bench and still talking, and the microphones were picking up what he was saying. And he was saying disparaging things about me and Mr. Crow, my law partner at the time. And just, it was clear that there was some bias there. And this, there's a big difference between being 30 years old and I'm 61 years old now. When you go back and look at what happened and all these are all scenes that are uncut, just didn't they weren't in the documentaries. And so I literally was nauseated to watch it because my older self was looking at my younger self in disbelief actually at some of the things that were going on. And as the appeal process started, people came up to me and started giving me new information, which was very, very, in some cases, unbelievable. But then again, I started noticing these patterns emerging where witnesses were hidden from us, so we couldn't subpoena them. And I had a book signing just a few weeks ago at Barnes and Noble in Jonesboro, and someone walked up to me and gave me some explosive evidence that I never knew about. And so there's been a lot of people who've come forward because they were too afraid to come forward back 30 years ago. But also, one of the things when I'm doing public speaking about the case, and the case has never, ever left the headlines in 30 years, 31 years now. And it's there's just so much garbage out there on the internet that's just completely, totally untrue. And so in 2014, I sat down and decided that I was going to get serious about writing this book. And of course, life has its interruptions, but I, with my co-author, Tom McCarthy, who is an excellent writer and editor, he stuck it out with me for 9 years before we got it completed and published it back in November. But there's between 80 and 100 things that have never been disclosed to the public in the book. Some of the things that nefarious things that were being done by police officers and a prosecutor and the trial judge himself, which were very disturbing. And so this is, again, sort of my memoirs of the case.
Yeah.
But I had several goals in mind when I wrote the book, one of which was to set the record straight on what really happened.
Yeah, and just to update our audience, in 2010, the three accused were able to enter an Alford plea, and they were able to go free after 18 years. There's still no one that's been arrested for the brutal murder of 3 8-year-old boys that happened in May of 1993. Let me ask you this. I mean, point blank, Dan, who did this crime?
Well, I am unwilling at this point to take Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of the victim, Stevie Branch, off my list of suspects. And with Arkansas Supreme Court back in April, remanding the case back to the circuit court and basically ordering the retesting. We're very hopeful that this new testing will lead us to a suspect. And we know that Mr. Hobbs was at the scene because he left traces of DNA behind, and as did his friend who was helping him look for the little boys that night. His hair was found on a tree stump at the crime scene. So that's one theory that I'm looking at. The other theory is an over-the-road long-haul truck driver serial killer, which, according to I got the book right behind me. Let's see.
No, that's okay. Again, I just want to remind our audience that Dan Stidham was a young, as you heard, a young lawyer at the time, took this case and fought for the release of the West Memphis 3 that we've been telling you about. And so now this book, Harvest of Innocence, is about that tenure of time and some of the untold things that he is now allowed to say after that investigation. And still to this day, not just here in Memphis and the Mid-South, but this specific investigation is still talked about, one of the most talked about investigations out there right now, still very much on the minds of so many. And a lot of it in part is due to a documentary called Paradise Lost that really, once it aired, it really, the fervor of this case and trying to find justice was something that was that seemed to be ramped up on steroids. They wanted it, people just were calling for justice immediately and to figure out exactly what went wrong and how to get the boys out of prison, men now, of course. Anything else before we let you go, Dan? This is something that if anyone is familiar with this case or has an interest in this case, I would think they'd be very interested in reading Harvest of Innocence. Anything else you want to mention?
Yes, I'd like to add in that the FBI has created a task force on long-haul serial killers, and a former FBI agent, assistant director of the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi, has just wrote a book about that very topic. But the thing I would like to stress the most about the book and is that I break it down into terms that if you walk away from reading A Harvest of Innocence and you don't believe that these three teenagers, now middle-aged men, are innocent, then I didn't succeed in my book. But I break down the false confessions, not just one, but several, and systematically throughout the book, completely knock the wheels off the state's case. And I did not know about the Alford plea till the night before it happened. I wasn't an architect of that. It was something that just kind of happened in the moment secretly. And as the years went by, I had to try to figure out how that happened and how that occurred, because I was kind of bitter when I discovered what had actually happened. But I take the reader through the entire story, and to make it genuine, I wanted to make sure that I was as tough on myself as I was some of the other key players in the case, so that people could read the book, go through all the scientific information that's in layman's terms, so that they could understand what really happened and how these three kids were convicted due to this mass hysteria that we refer to now as satanic panic. And this kind of event happened in Salem, Massachusetts. 300 years later, it happened in West Memphis, Arkansas, and it's going to keep happening until we address the issues with some criminal reform, which would be pretty easy to implement, but it's been a struggle for all these years.
Dan Stidham, the West Memphis 3 attorney, now has a new book, Harvest of Innocence, The Untold Story of the West Memphis 3. It still remains one of the most discussed true crime stories today. Dan, I really appreciate you coming on the digital desk. Thank you for giving us a heads up on this book, and we appreciate your time. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas, and at some point in our lives, you're going to have to deal with getting a new car, or at least a new car for you. At some point, you're going to have to say, it's time to trade in the old one, or it's time to sell the new one, and now I got to figure out what I should get for my next ride. What should you get? There are so many options out there, and sometimes that whole process can be very intimidating. And we're not just talking about something that's intimidating for a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old. This is for every age group. It's daunting when you think about what car you should get, how many miles should it have, should you get a used car, should you get a new car, what should you do with your trade-in, what should you do if you want to sell your car? Well, I have the perfect interview for you to really just kind of bring it down to layman's terms of what we can do and better, find a way to empower all those consumers out there that are in the market for a car. Let's bring in Stan Norton. He is the CEO of City Auto. He is also someone who sits on the board of the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission. Stan, I appreciate you joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning, Andrew. I'm doing very well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we begin on this? At what point does a person say, okay, I think I might need a new car? And where should we start with that process? Because it is very daunting.
It is daunting. First, Andrew, let me just offer a disclaimer here. Even though I sit on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission today, the information offered today is my opinion. It's not an official statement from the state of Tennessee, so I have to offer that. But yeah, it is a daunting task to purchase a vehicle. It's the second largest asset an individual will buy. So you just start from the beginning. What is your need? What do you want? And then, of course, the internet has made that very opportunistic to search for that. So I think the average consumer spends something like 100 hours online just to make a purchase, only to go to less than 2 dealerships to find what they want. So it's just something that it comes down to needs and wants. But the internet's a good place to start. So do all your research. So in new cars, I mean, the average cost of a new car is $47,000. A used car is $26,000. So you start there, and that equates to a payment. So everybody's got a different need or a want. So there's a lot of things to determine when you're going to search for a car. And there's the obvious tips when you start to look for. Once you decide what you want, you got to find a dealer. And I would recommend finding a licensed dealer, someone who's reputable, and you can find that by searching online. There's all kinds of reputation tools online, like the Better Business Bureau. There's Google reviews. There's all kinds of things you can look to start finding a dealer. And once you find that dealer, you gotta do a lot of research. right? You got to
So-
do, there's a lot of research to be done.
Yeah,
Go
let
ahead.
me ask you something, Stan. Let me just jump in real quick. I know that there are some times, and this is just a question, some times of the year are better than others to be in the market for a new car or a used car. Can you talk a little bit about that, maybe when the best times are during the year?
I get that question asked a lot. There's really not a better time. I mean, I've been doing this 38 years. The model changes can be an opportunity to find a better deal if there's a transition in the body style. But I mean, that's a tough one. Really, there's no really good time. I mean, I hear the end of the year closeouts. I guess I can't say there's really a better time to buy a car. Now, we just went through the pandemic, and that created some challenges from supply and demand. But the supply and demand is pretty consistent now and it normalized. But I mean, really not a good time. The time is just when is the best time for you? There's not really a peak or a valley for the supply and demand of that. So I guess I say there's not a better time than today. Today's a good day to buy a car.
What about being in the car market? At what point do you, the consumer, the driver, say, I think I may need a new car? Are there some factors involved that that the consumer needs to ask themselves and then answer themselves and say, okay, yeah, I might be in I might need a new ride?
Well, I think everybody's always looking for a car. It's like shopping for clothes. People drive down the street and they see something they like. So subconsciously, people always aspire to buy something new, but it comes down to wants and needs. And one of the things we see quite often is a person that they pay their car off and they don't have a car payment, but they start occurring deferred maintenance issues. Things start to break because typically when they pay their car off, it's got higher miles. So it's a variation of things. It's wants and needs, but I mean we see it all. But more importantly, when they start breaking, people want to get rid of. We have city. I know we have 2 service departments, and we find people when they get a very high repair bill for something, the first thing they say, I think I'd be better off just going ahead and trading it. So, but and then you got some people who like to trade every year to get a new car. So it's just a wide variety of why anybody wants to shop, but thankfully they like to shop every day. It keeps us in business.
So that brings me to my next question. What is the difference? Like, when do we decide, okay, we should sell our car out there on the market, maybe an online platform, or trade it in for that new ride that we want?
Well, the internet has given us a lot of options over the past years because it used to be you'd have to call your banker, they'd give you a book value, excuse me, and you go to the dealership and you'd explain, hey, I've got a book value. Well, they wouldn't tell you where to go get that book value, but now you have that opportunity. You can go do an online search, and there's a multitude of platforms that can give you an offer online, and they'll bring you a check and pick up the car. So but I would recommend as a consumer, that's the first thing you do is if you've got to trade in, is try to find out what it's worth so when you show up at the dealership to trade it, you have a pretty good idea of what they're supposed to give you because you have gone online and gotten bids. And so it makes it a lot easier for the consumer. It takes a lot of the pressure off the car buying experience because, that's part of the negotiation. What are you going to sell me your car for? And what are you going to give me for mine? And so this opportunity to go online takes care of that. So it's made our jobs easier as well as just the overall, shopping online. When I said the average consumer goes to less than 2 dealerships to buy a car, that's because they've already gone online and they've compared prices and all the options they're looking for online. So a consumer has every tool at their fingertips to go to shop for a car. You just spend all that time doing research online, finding out what it is you want, the color, the miles, the equipment, the price, because it's all right there at your fingertips. And then you can shop for price as well. And then you get your valuation tools done online. So, I mean, it's pretty easy. It's made the car buying experience a lot simpler for the consumer because they come to the dealership prepared to buy a vehicle.
Right, exactly. We have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Action News 5 digital desk stand. And, you have said it several times that people need to do their research, their homework online first. That's best practices for someone that's in the car market. If you had maybe 2 or 3 other bullet points to give to consumers out there who are in the car market after, doing your research online, what else would you tell them?
Well, if you're going to buy a used car, and I find this all too often in my sector and my business, and also we see it from the commission's perspective as well, is dealers. I would never buy a car from a dealer that sold a used car that sold it as is. That's disclosed. It's a federal, it's a buyer's guide. Law requires to be displayed in the window. If you see that and the dealer wants to sell you that as is, I wouldn't buy the car. I mean, you enter in an area where the dealer can hide behind the fact that he's selling it as is, and he's not responsible for anything that happens to that car after he takes it off the lot. So, you know, most reputable dealers offer some sort of coverage that, you know, it's a small coverage, generally anywhere from 1,000 miles to 6,000 miles, that it offers a stated coverage that protects the consumer if something is actually wrong with the vehicle. Now, there is all the other opportunities to extend that coverage further, but I mean, just beware. Don't, you know, if you do buy a car as is, absolutely take it and let a mechanic check it out. Don't just take the dealer's word for it. I mean, there's a lot of good dealers out there. You know, at City Auto, we work hard in our reputation. We've been in business 38 years to try to take care of our customers, and there's mostly dealers do that, but there are some characters out there that don't follow the rules, and they hurt the consumers. So that would be a tip for sure, is make sure you don't buy a vehicle as is. But also, when you're shopping online, look for the dealer. There's a lot of information. Dealers all have online reputations, and it's easy to find it through, you know, the different platforms like Google or the Better Business Bureau. So if you'll look at those things, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, you're going to have issues because they're vehicles and they're man-made and they do break. But what makes a dealer different is how they handle that after the fact. You know, do you care about your customer? Are the customer going to be taken care of? So there's a lot to be considered in that. But to me, that would be the biggest thing, is make sure you find a good dealer. Do your research on the dealer itself as well as the car to make sure you get the best outcome.
Okay, he is Stan Norton, Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission and the COO of City Auto. Stan, we really appreciate the tips and advice you gave this morning here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Hours temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first look futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in, that will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower or thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena. Going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Have you heard about the Center of Innovation at Regional One Health? It helps innovators, it helps entrepreneurs out there use their creativity and their innovation to come up with new and better ways to improve the patient experience and outcomes. And one of the programs within the Center of Innovation is something called the Healthcare Startup Access Incubator. I'm joined now by Alejandro Alvarez. She is the Chief Innovation Officer for Regional One Health, and she has been on the digital desk before talking about the Center of Innovation. She's back Now, joining us to talk about this incubator that is set up for all those entrepreneurs out there, all those different business leaders and innovators. Alejandra, thank you so much for joining us. First, for our audience that doesn't know about the Center of Innovation, can you briefly explain what it is? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So the Center for Innovation at Regional One Health is a department that aims to inspire and cultivate ideas from personnel, ideas from partners, and we do that through different programs and development efforts. So the Healthcare Startup Access Incubator, which you've just mentioned, is one of those programs, and that's specifically designed to amplify the work that's already been happening through the startup community. So if you're a healthcare startup, you've got a new innovative ideas, the goal of the incubator is to amplify your work by helping you validate whether you're solving for the right problem and the right solution. And we do that by giving you access to our environment, our real world environment.
It sounds great, and I'm so glad the Center of Innovation is here in Memphis and the Mid-South. So tell me about some of the new technologies involved. You know, we hear AI all the time, Alejandra, and I'm wondering how AI is involved with some of this Center of Innovation.
Certainly. So we actually have a new participant in our Access Incubator called OK to Stand Up. And they, in fact, have developed a solution that has AI involved in it. And so we're very excited to be working with them because it is the first startup that has a solution with AI in it. And as you know, that is top of the news today. So what they've done is they've developed an AI wearable device that is connected to a machine learning model that hopes to analyze the information and predict when an individual's activity is close to having intentions of getting up. And so if you are familiar with the healthcare industry, falls are a big harm factor. We don't want our patients to fall. So we do a lot of interventions and a lot of care surrounding how can we prevent and reduce that. And so that's what they're working to achieve and help support healthcare hospitals with. By understanding someone's intention of getting up, we can then, as a caregiver, proactively engage the patient and prevent a potential fall.
Okay, so OK to Stand Up. I understand that is that's the latest thing here, and I understand that there's also studies with nursing homes that have been completed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, actually, that's what makes this particular participant very unique in that when OK to Stand Up was developed, they were developed to try to address falls within the nursing home environment. And so they've set out to develop their solution. They actually have tested and validated their solution in that environment. And so what's interesting here is that they quickly realized the impact this could have also in hospital settings, specifically acute settings like Regional One Health. And so the studies that they've done have proven to be very, very noteworthy in that they've obtained 95% sensitivity, 95% specificity. And what that means is that out of every 100 notifications that say, hey, there's an intention of getting up by this individual, 95 of those are correct. And so what's interesting for us is they are validated from that standpoint. However, the setting is different. So our goal is to work with them to see how this technology translates into a hospital setting.
So tell me how the Healthcare Startup Access Incubator is helping a program like OK to Stand Up.
Thank you for that, because this is the beauty of what we think we can provide both Memphis and also our community. So the incubator has been designed to provide access for startups so they can validate their business use case or their clinical use case. So what that means is, you know, do they have all the right parameters from their business plan in place? Do they know how their technology is going to be purchased? How much is it going to be purchased for? Is it going to be paid for by either insurance or hospital? There's a lot of different questions there from a business standpoint that a lot of startups struggle with, especially if they're not in the healthcare industry. So through the Access Incubator, we're able to help them sort of find pathways and answers to those questions. And then from the clinical standpoint, of course, a lot of the times we will do feedback sessions or to some extent product evaluations that allow them to obtain that clinical validation. So the Access Incubator is both business and clinical focused, and the idea is if they can access a health system where they're putting their solution in a real world setting, they'll have a greater chance at entering the marketplace and therefore a greater chance at success.
It's fascinating to hear about this stuff. It's great to see and great to hear. We have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk. Ali, is there anything that you would like to let people know about the Center of Innovation that we've talked about? You know, just an overview or how people can get involved or learn more information about it.
Certainly. Well, so first of all, I would like them to know that we provide a world environment setting for them to validate their technology or solution through candid conversations, exposure, interactions, and ultimately understanding the efficacy and safety of their product. So if they've got a healthcare solution that they're creating or getting ready to create, we can work with them through that process, and as a result of that, ensure that when they go to market, they have validated their technology and can have greater chance at success. In terms of our current participant, I think the biggest component that I would like the community to know is that even though this program was specifically designed for helping startups validate their technology, it also had a secondary objective, and the secondary objective is that our staff gets exposed to these latest advancements in healthcare technologies. They interact with them, and so we hope that inspires them and that gets them excited about what's to come. I don't know if that's always something that you can get from your day-to-day work, and so we hope to bring that excitement to them. But most importantly, our community and our patients also have a benefit in this structure, because by accessing this technology, we have the opportunity to be able to provide that to our patients as well, if the case merits it, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to tap into the latest technological advancements that are happening, innovations that are happening without otherwise would take us a long time to obtain. So I think that's the biggest benefit for us, is that we're also not only helping our staff members improve and think differently and think innovative, but we're also getting a chance to leverage that technology for patient care so that we can improve the health and well-being of our community.
Is there a website where people can go and learn more information about the Center of Innovation and what you guys do to help not only entrepreneurs and business leaders, but also the general public?
Yes, absolutely. So it's innovation.regional1health.org. They'll be able to find information about our programs and my contact information. So I'll be happy to talk to them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Alejandra Alvarez, we appreciate your time once again on the Digital Desk. Thanks so very much. And thanks for all that you do for the Center of Innovation, for all of us here in Memphis and the Mid-South. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, another live look from our high five camera here in downtown Memphis. We're at 75 degrees at 9:14. We're back in 1 minute.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Our temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in. That will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower or thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena. Going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
about the safest vehicles for this summer? Perhaps you have a teen that's getting ready to drive or is driving right now. You want the very best, safest car for them. And how do you find it? Well, let's bring in someone that can maybe give us some pointers with that. I'm joined now by Brian Moody, Executive Director of Kelley Blue Book. Brian, appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. I was actually on your site last night looking up the value of my car. It's a great site. I love it. But let's focus on this summer and some of the safest vehicles out there for the family and for the teens. What's kind of the number one thing we should all be looking for when we want that safe car?
Well, the first thing is when you're looking for a car for a kid or a teen, maybe even a first-time driver, the kind of car they want might not be the best car for them. So you have to kind of compromise a little bit. You don't want high-performance cars, and you don't want something that sits high off the ground. There are some exceptions, of course. Some kids have grown up in a rural environment. They've driven tractors and lots of stuff. They can handle all that. But for the average kid, high off the ground is a no-no. Big, high horsepower cars, that's also a no-no. And by the way, those things can affect your insurance rate. What you want is a good, safe car that's reasonably reliable, that has certain features from the factory. So you want airbags, of course. You want side head curtain airbags that protects your head in case of a side collision. You want traction control, and you want stability control. You can opt for a parking camera, but that's not necessary because you can always add that later. So don't get caught up in finding a car that has a parking camera from the factory. You can always add that to a car later, and it's not that much money.
Do you think a car would be the best option for some of those teens out there, or do you think maybe a small SUV? What do you think?
A small SUV could be okay if it's relatively low to the ground, say something like a Honda CR-V, something like that. Cars are best. What's interesting is a lot of kids have been telling me they prefer cars because being high off the ground makes it difficult for them to judge their surroundings. And a lot of kids have also been saying, well, I don't want an SUV. That's what my parents drove. That kind of thing happens from generation to generation. Think about what we didn't want. We didn't want station wagons. So cars are a good place to start. Cars, sedans especially, are also affordable because they're not in super high demand. All those safety features I just mentioned, all of those features, you can find that on a car for less than $10,000.
Good deal. That's a good piece of advice. What about the safest vehicles for families out there? Summer road trips underway here. The best and safest car for that family?
Yeah, if you look at the government crash test ratings, which is the NHTSA.gov, that's the place where they publish their crash test results. You want a car that's a 4 or 5 stars at least, and then there'll be little notes in there. Sometimes they test a car that has optional equipment, so you want to look for that if you're buying a new car. Typically, the brands that perform quite well are brands like Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis. Toyota does quite well. Honda and Acura do quite well. Look for those cars, and look for model by model, though. Look for a high crash test score. If you really want to get extra information, you can go to a website that's iihs.org, and they have a little bit different of a safety rating system, but they still give you crash test ratings, and they rate everything from the strength of the headlights to the safety equipment, how the airbags work, all that kind of stuff.
Are there maybe some common mistakes out there that some families make, just real easy mistakes to avoid?
Yeah, one of them is assuming that, any old car will do. And, well, they're going to have to earn the money to save up, and they're going to get a $1,500 car. That's not necessarily the case anymore. That used to be fine, because if you think about safety technology from, say, the 60s to the 90s, it didn't change that much. Maybe there was some better equipment, better seatbelts, but from the 2000s to now, in those 20 years, a lot of things have changed. Anti-lock brakes is one. Airbags is another. And the other thing is, always go on to the government website, the same thing that I just mentioned, which is nhtsa.org or .gov, and look to see if your car that you're considering buying has any open recalls. Of course, everyone's talked about the Takata airbag story. There's lots of cars out there that have been unrepaired, and that's very dangerous. If you have one that's been repaired, it's going to be okay. But make sure before you buy a car, there are no open recalls, and especially with the airbags. So people oftentimes look after they have the car. Well, there's a reason why it wasn't addressed to begin with. I wouldn't want to find that out when I'm the person who's the owner of the car. I would do all that work beforehand, and that would help me inform me about which car I'm going to buy.
This has been very informative, Brian. I appreciate you dropping some of this knowledge here with us on the digital desk.
Sure.
I leave the last question open to you. Anything else you feels important to the thousands of people that are watching us right now that you haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I think one thing that's worth considering is just because you don't have a lot of money to spend doesn't mean that you can't find a safe car. I purchased a car recently for one of my kids, and it had all the features I just said, and it was $6,000. Now, it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't a hot rod or a sports car, but it had the basic safety features. And don't be worried about having to get a new car. Of course, the newer car you get, the more standard equipment it's going to have. But you can go back a few years, 2008, 2009, 2006, and find a car that has all the safety features that I just mentioned for a reasonable price and with reasonable miles too.
All right, Brian Moody, Kelley Blue Book Executive Director. Appreciate you coming on the digital desk.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so very much. Very optimistic too. I mean, $6,000 for a great, safe car for your teen. Fantastic news, especially in light of what we've seen with used car prices over the last several years. That gives us all hope who have kids driving, among other things. Brian, thanks. Children's Research Hospital is world-renowned for its work in pediatric cancer research and treatment, and as part of its mission to defeat cancer, St. Jude is raising awareness with an important message for parents. HPV vaccination is cancer prevention. Let's talk more about this issue right now with Heather Brandt. She is Director of HPV Cancer Prevention Programs at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Heather, good morning to you. Tell us about the HPV Cancer Prevention Program there, and maybe some more interesting headlines when it comes to HPV. Good morning.
Good morning. Our program at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is focused on promoting on-time HPV vaccination among children ages 9 to 12. As you and many of those watching know, St. Jude has a longstanding commitment to serving children and families and curing catastrophic diseases, and we don't yet know how to prevent the cancers for which children are treated every day here at St. Jude. However, HPV vaccination is cancer prevention. And so by focusing on-time HPV vaccination among children, we're able to prevent 6 types of cancer in adulthood. And so our program is focused on ensuring that parents, caregivers, those who are making vaccination decisions for families and children have the information they need to know HPV vaccination is very safe, it works very well, and it provides long-lasting protection.
So, Heather, we know here in Memphis in the Mid-South, I mean, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, what a gem. What a gem for our community to have you and everyone at St. Jude in our backyard. Tell us some of the misconceptions about HPV that are out there.
So there are several myths and misconceptions about HPV vaccination. First, one of the more common misconceptions is that HPV vaccination is only relevant to girls and women. And nothing could be further from the truth. HPV vaccination is for everyone, males and females. In fact, the most commonly diagnosed HPV cancer is oral pharyngeal cancer, which occurs at the base of the tongue and tonsils. And that cancer is most commonly diagnosed in men, followed by cervical cancer in women. So this means that HPV is cancer prevention for everyone, and HPV vaccination is routinely recommended for males and females. A second is about the safety of the vaccination. This vaccine is very safe. We have more than 18 years of safety and monitoring data to tell us that this vaccine is like all other vaccines in terms of some pain, soreness, redness, swelling at the injection site, but otherwise, no additional safety considerations or concerns for us to worry about. And then lastly, we often hear, how do we really know that giving this vaccine to children is going to prevent cancers in adulthood? And we're starting to see those benefits. We're starting to see reductions of HPV precancers and cancers, and some countries like Australia, which have really high HPV vaccination coverage, they're on track to eliminate HPV cancer, starting with cervical cancer by the year 2035. So this is a vaccination that's for everyone. It's safe and it works really well to prevent HPV cancers.
Okay, and so we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk, Heather. If there's some parents out there that want some more information, do they contact their pediatrician about it? How do they go about getting the HPV vaccine?
So we encourage parents to talk to their child's healthcare provider to ask and get answers to their questions. We also want parents to be prepared for those conversations. And so we hope that people will visit our website, stjude.org/HPV and stjude.org/prevent-HPV. We have several resources, including frequently asked questions about HPV vaccination, more details on the recommendation for which children should be getting HPV vaccination, which is basically all children ages 9 to 12 should complete the 2-dose series so that parents can be prepared for those conversations with their child's healthcare provider.
Okay, Heather Brandt with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us and spelling it out for us, HPV, the vaccine, and when parents should consider it for their children. We appreciate your time. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas, and I just finished reading an article from our friend at the Daily Memphian, Sam Hardiman, who covers city politics mainly for the Daily Memphian. Sam, how are you?
I'm well, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I was reading your article here, and the title is "Permits Not Required for Temporary XAI Turbines." We have covered a lot, and most of the Memphis news media has covered a lot about not only XI coming here, which is a great opportunity for the city, the region, the ideas and the possibilities are almost endless, but at the same time, there's a lot of environmental concerns. The power that's involved, the water that's involved. And some of this hits on this article, Sam. I want you to kind of inform our viewers about the idea of these turbines, what they're being used for, and why there's a little bit of concern.
Right. So the article, and you can find it on dailymemphian.com, is about essentially right now XAI as they build out their supercomputer. They're not fully on Tennessee Valley Authority's transmission system and Memphis Light Gas and Water's distribution grid. So that means that they are not receiving all of their electricity from Memphis Light Gas and Water, which they will be in the future, most likely. Okay. And instead, in order to move rapidly as a company and get this supercomputer up and running, the company has rented combustion natural gas turbines, which, if you really want to think about it in a sort of a intuitive sense, they're jet engines that are running on natural gas that are used for power. Okay. And this is a substantial amount of power. There's a lot of turbines there that are running a lot of the time to essentially power the supercomputer, which demands, the electricity equivalent of several thousand homes at least. Okay. And so the real question has been well, combustion turbines are a source of major hazardous air pollutants, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Okay. Which means what is burned off of those turbines when the gas is burned, what comes out is under federal regulation, it is an issue. And it is a contaminant of some kind, can be a contaminant of some kind. And so we asked the question at the Daily Memphian, well, are these properly permitted? Are these turbines properly permitted? And the answer we got at first was there are no permits. And then after we published the story, and you'll see this reflected in the story, the Greater Memphis Chamber, which I want to point out is not an environmental regulator, is not a regulatory agency in any way, is saying that the company was told they didn't need permits for this. So they don't need an emissions permit to run these natural gas turbines. This morning, I spoke to the Environmental Protection Agency, and you'll see a short story on the Daily Memphian shortly, that essentially is that for a year, these turbines can run and do not need an air emissions permit for the first year. And so really, our reporting was focusing on what is the environmental cost of running these turbines, which is significant, and also, are they following proper procedures? And it turns out the company has followed proper procedures and essentially using what is a loophole in federal regulation to run these things without an air emissions permit.
I find it fascinating that this is certainly something that Elon Musk and his companies are known to do. As you mentioned in the article, they like to get things going really fast. Once they decide on something, they go at it full strength, full speed right away. And I guess these gas turbines are just another version of that with XAI. I'm curious though, you said these are gas turbines powered by natural gas. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't natural gas like very clean?
I mean, very clean. I don't want to. I want to speak carefully. I'm not a scientist. Okay. First of all, I'm not a scientist. My degree is in journalism, and it was barely a degree. All right, so he's got a degree. But second, the burning of any sort of hydrocarbon is, and as the EPA has found, and these are the reasons these standards exist, right? And the EPA just rejected essentially a request from the American Petroleum Institute and others to get stationary combustion gas turbines off of the hazard air pollutant list, and the EPA was essentially said no this past year. That's what happened. And so, but to the broader point, natural gas is cleaner than coal, okay? And so that has really been the buzzword. That has really been the talking point that's been used. Natural gas is certainly much cleaner than burning coal. It's certainly much cleaner for the environment if you were mass burning wood, okay? Like in terms of what is coming off and what is what happens after you burn these things for energy, right? Because most of what we do in society to generate energy is to burn some sort of carbon intensive use for the most part. We do use nuclear energy. We do use hydroelectric dams and stuff like that. We do use solar. We do use batteries, right? But largely, it is carbon-based sources, which is what humanity has used to power itself. And all of these sources have emissions. Okay, natural gas is certainly cleaner in most cases than coal, which, for a little bit of context, people who lived in the Mid-South a long time remember that there was the Allen fossil plant down at Pigeon Industrial Park down there, okay, which is very close to where XAI is. Now there is the Allen Combined Cycle plant. The Allen fossil plant burned coal. The Allen Combined Cycle plant burns natural gas, okay? Coal, there is, a legacy of decades worth of coal down in Southwest Memphis. If you go to Southwest Memphis near the XAI facility, you will see truck after truck of the refuse of coal ash being trucked out of there, okay? And all that coal ash has a tremendous amount of unsafe chemicals in it, and absolutely. But natural gas also has its own pollutants and its own, issue of pollution. There's just one maybe cleaner than the other. Neither are particularly clean.
I see. Okay, I appreciate that explanation. So where do we go from here? Because I understand that there are a lot of different players involved. You got the TVA, you got MLGW, you got the EPA, you got Shelby County, the city of Memphis. What's next in this whole process? Because there is that juxtaposition of you want Elon Musk and XAI to do extremely well here in Memphis in the Mid-South, but at the same time, you want to protect the environmental concerns, the water, the aquifer, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening is XAI, the city of Memphis, and Memphis Light Gas and Water are partnering. Doug McGowan, the CEO of MLG&W, confirmed that this weekend. We had reported at the Daily Memphian. Those three parties are partnering on a gray water plant, which is gonna potentially, if it gets built, curtail the amount of fresh water that's used for industrial coolant, not just by XAI, but for other businesses in the city, which means that, the city is in the MLG&W are going to be conserving a lot more of our freshwater resource, which is, right beneath our feet here, the Memphis Sand Aquifer. Shout out Memphis Sands Beer from Wiseacre. That's, one of the next things that's next. And that's a very positive thing potentially for the environment. Next, XAI has to connect to the Tennessee Valley Authority's grid. That requires TVA board approval because their electric load is so large. And that's probably going to happen, sometime in the next couple months. It could be a little later, but sometime in the next couple months. And until then, these gas turbines are going to continue to burn and power this supercomputer, which is among the most advanced pieces of technology in the world. There really isn't, at this point, it's pretty unlikely that anything's going to disrupt this project short of a natural disaster, short of something calamitous happening. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But that's essentially what's happening here. There isn't, I would say that there is no fork in the road of some approval that needs to be taken. XAI is here. It's just a matter of how the build out happens and what the environmental legacy of the build out turns out to be, which could be quite positive if a gray water plant comes online.
Gotcha. And going back to one of your earlier articles, not to divert too much away from the topic we're talking about, but you mentioned that you have a source that said if this goes well, in effect, that there might be other businesses or companies affiliated with Elon Musk that comes here to Memphis. Is that still the case?
Yeah, my colleague Sophia Surratt and I have been talking to someone familiar with the matter, someone close to the company who's not authorized to speak publicly. I hope they're authorized to speak public soon. That'd be great. Yeah, the Musk controls a lot of private companies beyond Tesla, which is a publicly traded company. He controls a lot of private companies. And what I would say is that that source is indicated to Sophia and I think people in economic development in the city feel the same way, that there are potential other opportunities given the industrial land that Memphis has for other Musk companies to come here. I haven't heard the door closed on that. I haven't heard the door cracked wide open either. It really just depends on, how things go. And, I can't pretend to be able to predict or have any good read on what very large private companies, are thinking in their decision-making process, but it's certainly a possibility and something that, could be looked forward to with some hope, I would imagine.
And on the flip side, Sam, we had a public meeting over the weekend that was trying to address all these concerns from the community, environmental mainly, the concerns. Is there, after that meeting, I know that Doug McGowan spoke, we covered it. Are those concerns still there? I mean, it seems like Doug McGowan tries to calm a lot of those concerns, but it seems like the same concerns keep on coming up over and over again.
Yeah, look, I think that's a great question. I think the way I would frame it is like I think a lot of these environmental concerns are going to persist until either the project doesn't exist there, or for example, on the water, right, where people are concerned about how much water XAI could use, which XAI would potentially add about 1.3 million gallons of fresh water consumption from the aquifer when it's fully online and there's not a gray water plant available. Keep in mind that's out of 150 million that MLG&W pumps every day. So it's not adding more than 1%, it's adding about 1% to the consumption of fresh water, which is still giant and significant. Don't get me wrong. But until there's a gray water plant, I think people are going to be concerned about the fresh water usage, right? Until those natural gas turbines go away, I think people are going to be concerned about the emissions from them and the burning of natural gas for them. Like those things are probably going to persist, it would seem. And then, when XAI joins fully TVA's grid and Memphis Light Gas and Water's distribution system, right? Because once that happens, it's then the attention is going to turn to the broader, not just for XAI, but in general, the broader concern of, well, how does TVA generate its electricity? How much does it rely on natural gas? How much does it rely on nuclear energy, hydroelectric dams? Can it get cleaner, right? So I think environmental concerns in the climate that we're in a warming planet that we face, they're always going to be there. And, beyond that, I don't know. I mean, people are probably likely going to always be suspicious of Elon Musk. He's a pretty polarizing individual. I think that's pretty fair to say. That's how I would describe it.
Gotcha. Well, Sam Hardiman, an enterprise and investigative journalist working for the Daily Memphian and dailymemphian.com. He covers local government, he covers politics, and a host of other stories. You need to read his column and his stories each and every morning on Daily Memphian because it is packed full of all kinds of interesting tidbits, information that's happening all around the city and the region. Anything else, Sam, before we let you go?
No, I hope everyone has a great week. Hope everyone enjoyed the great weather this weekend, and be safe out there.
All right, Sam Hardiman, we appreciate your conversation each and every time you come on the Digital Desk. Thank you. All right, another live look from our High Five camera downtown on a Monday where it is 78 degrees at 9:49. Very comfortable still. We'll be talking about your forecast in 1 minute.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Our temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first look at Futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in. That will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday, an isolated shower or thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena, going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Let me talk about dry eye for a minute here. It is increasingly common, and it can range from occasional symptoms to chronic disease. Symptoms that can include scratchy or gritty feelings, redness, fluctuation of vision, blurriness, tired eyes, and eye irritation. So what causes it, and how do we manage some of those symptoms? I'm joined right now by a couple of people that can really help us with this discussion right now. I'm joined by Dr. Christopher Starr. He's a refractive and cornea surgeon, and Rebecca Petrus. She's president and co-founder of the Dry Eye Foundation. Thank you both for joining us. Dr. Starr, let me start with you. Tell me first, what is dry eye and what causes it? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. We're very happy to be here. Dry eye disease or dry eyes are exactly that. It's when our eyes get dried out, they get irritated, they get gritty, sandy, burnt. Sometimes the symptoms are burning and stinging, and very commonly the symptoms are blurry vision or fluctuating vision and a whole host of other symptoms that one can have. And it is a very common condition. It's something, as an ophthalmologist, I see every single day, many, many times. And so Rebecca and I are here to raise awareness, to let people know that this is a real condition. It's not something that people should suffer with. There are great treatments for this. It is very common. You're not the only one. And so see an eye doctor if you have any of these symptoms and get treated as quickly as possible. Dry eye is usually caused by either a decrease in tear production, our eyes don't make enough tears, or the tears that we make are of poor quality and tend to evaporate very quickly, leading to dry spots on the eyes. And each of those things can lead to those symptoms I've just described and can lead to these changes in our vision. It's extremely common, and we see it in all ages, not just older people. We see it in kids, we see it in young adults. And a big driver in that younger population is exactly what we're doing right now, which is staring at our computers. We don't blink as often. Our eyes tend to dry out. The tears evaporate. We're not blinking to reestablish the tear film, and we get dry eyes. And that, of course, gets worse and worse and worse as the hours add up and the days add up and the years add up. And that's a big cause of dry eyes. But there are plenty and plenty of other things that lead to dry eyes. Other medical conditions, autoimmune conditions, and a whole host of other diseases can lead to dry eyes. Medications that we take, the environment, our diets, things we put in our bodies, humidity, low humidity, blowing air. The list goes on and on and on and on. But the common thing are these symptoms, and if you have any of these symptoms, see an eye doctor as quickly as you can.
Rebecca, over to you. I want to ask you something, Rebecca, if you don't mind. Tell me what, from your capacity, I mean, you are the president of the Dry Eye Foundation. What do you hear the most from people that have these dry eye symptoms? What kind of complaints, how does it impact their daily life?
Right, so there's dry eye and there's dry eye, right? Anybody can have a little bit of dry eye symptoms. Most of us do occasionally. That's a whole different thing than dry eye disease, where your eyes, whatever specific symptoms you've got, your eyes are basically uncomfortable all day long. And that is going to affect pretty much everything that you do. Work comes to mind first, because as Dr. Starr said, we're just on screens all of the time. That's one of the environments where we're going to experience this the most. Being outdoors is an issue for people. Driving is an issue for a lot of us. Being in over air conditioned or heated environments. There's just a lot of circumstances that are going to make us very uncomfortable. The recent Bausch & Lomb survey did a really great job of highlighting some things about this, like the fact that there's so many people with dry eye, but yet so few are seeing an eye doctor. Because what happens is we don't go to get help for it until it's gotten to the point where it's seriously interfering with our lives. So another thing that they highlighted in the survey was what this means to people who are going through it. They found that 8 out of 10 people who have these more advanced forms of dry eye, the persistent symptoms, they're constantly aware of how their eyes feel. Normal people are not going to notice how their eyes feel all day long. We do. And that's our impetus to do something about it. So Dr. Starr and I are wanting to raise awareness to say, please get to the doctor earlier. If you start experiencing these more and more, or you find you're using eye drops regularly, you really want to get checked out.
Dr. Starr, let me ask you, so how do people, what's best practices to manage symptoms and reduce symptoms?
Well, the best thing to do is to see the eye doctor because there are so many ways to go about treating this and diagnosing it, by the way. And it's good to and there are usually lots of variables. It's multifactorial often. And so we can kind of guide you into the best sort of practice for managing this as best as possible. A lot of people will start to sort of self-treat on their own, and that's usually the over-the-counter eye drops, and that's perfectly reasonable place to start. Over-the-counter lubricating drops, put them in when the symptoms come on. Certainly if you're taking them more than 2 or 3 times a day, that's really a good indication to see a specialist. Warm compresses, sort of dietary changes, avoiding low humidity and blowing air. Very importantly, on the computer, we should all be blinking more often, taking breaks, looking away from this closed computer into the distance.
We have thousands of
And I
people
always
that watch each and every morning.
closing the eyes at roughly,
Each and every morning.
20 seconds or so every 20 minutes, just to kind of let the eyes re-lubricate. But very importantly, see an eye doctor. We have great treatments for all stages of ocular surface and dry eye disease, from prescription medications to procedures that we do in the office, to specialty contact lenses and tear duct plugs, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So very important to get the diagnosis, get a customized treatment plan, and get this condition reversed.
Rebecca, over to you. Tell me where people can get more information and just, get some questions answered if they have dry eye.
Right. Well, we're a nonprofit organization. Our main website is dryeyefoundation.org. We've got tons of educational materials there for people, and also support, because people who are going through the severe versions of this, they're having a hard time. They're seeing impact at work, they're seeing impact throughout their life, and connecting people who can share advice and support is really important to us.
Okay, Rebecca
Boston Loam has
Petrus.
a website called.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Boston Loam has a website called knowyourdryeye.com as well, which is also a great resource in addition to Rebecca's website.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you both joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We appreciate your time this morning. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas, and I'm joined now by Reef Faberman, the Trust for America's Health Director of Strategic Communications and Policy Research. Good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about this new report that I'm hearing about epidemics of alcohol, drug, and suicide deaths. And give me the facts and the findings that surround this report. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. This is an annual report that Trust for America Health does, and we track the number of deaths due to alcohol, drugs, and suicide, both at the national level and at the state level. And there's some good news at both of those levels, although the number of deaths over the last 2 decades has really increased at very alarming rates. We're up 142% in these deaths, alcohol, drug, and suicide deaths over the last 2 decades. So we have a lot of work to do. But for the very latest data, which is for 2022, there is a glimmer of some good news. Nationally, alcohol drugs are down 6%. And in Tennessee, these deaths due to alcohol, drugs, and suicide are down across the board. Your alcohol deaths are down 2%, your drug overdose deaths are down 1%, and your suicide deaths are down 2%. So that's good news. However, we also need to remember that even with these reductions, over 6,400 people have died in Tennessee in 2022 from substance abuse or suicide.
How much is this related to the pandemic? I mean, I know we've been out of the pandemic now, but how much is it related to that?
Yeah, it's a good question because there is data that suggests that when we were able to come out of the pandemic, the public health emergency ended, people were able to get back to a more normal routine, going to an office, going to work, being able to socialize, going out to restaurants, etc. That helped people's sense of social isolation, any loneliness, because we did see very high increases, double-digit increases in alcohol and suicide deaths in 2020 and 2021. Now we see kind of a leveling off in 2022. So the end of the pandemic probably did impact these numbers.
So we have these numbers. They're extremely high, even though they aren't as high as they have been in the past. They are still extremely high. How do we bring it down?
Yeah, it's important to remember that even though we have seen a leveling off, the numbers across the last 2 decades are just astronomically high. So we need to do a couple of things. We need to invest in prevention programs and in the community conditions that allow people to thrive. We need to invest in harm reduction programs, things like readily available naloxone. Naloxone is a overdose reversal drug medication, and that needs to be readily available in communities. Fentanyl test strips need to be readily available in communities. Fentanyl is the largest driver of drug overdose. We also need to ensure that we have a mental health system in this country and a substance abuse prevention system that is large enough to meet all the need and that has the diversity and the language skills and the understanding of individual community culture to allow it to be really welcoming to anyone who needs help and effective for anyone who needs help.
What else can we talk about with regards to this study? And, you know, we've addressed this problem, this issue. It's still a mess when it comes to our area of West Tennessee and North Mississippi, Eastern Arkansas. What else can we talk about with solutions here?
Yeah, I would again point to the importance of a mental health services system that is as large as the scope of the problem. Many Americans, 53% of Americans, live in mental health workforce shortage areas, which means that if a person needs some kind of mental health services or substance abuse prevention services, they're likely put on a waiting list and they have to wait until they can get the services they need. That's something that really needs to be addressed. We also need to invest in prevention programs in schools. Schools are such a natural place to be able to help kids, to understand who needs help and the kind of help they need. So prevention programs in school, programs that teach coping skills and teach resilience, also very important.
Okay, Ms. Farberman, thank you so much for joining us on the Digital Desk. We appreciate your time and really just kind of analyzing this latest study that shows some progression, but still we got a long, long way to go. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Innovative early education providers are prioritizing topics beyond the traditional ABCs, 1, 2, 3, those elementary aspects to early childhood development. They're now teaching life skills to prepare children for the future. Most parents do appreciate this approach. In fact, a survey from Kiddie Academy found that 62% of parents prioritize learning soft skills under the age of 8. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this. I am joined by Sharon Latwinick, and she is with Kiddie Academy Life Essentials Curriculum Advisory Council member. Sharon, thanks so much for joining us on the Digital Desk. So tell me a little bit more about this survey and what's being implemented in early childhood education. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. You know, we know how critical the first 5 years of a child's development are. From birth to age 5, a child's brain is developing faster than at any other time in their life. And research has shown that the quality of a child's experiences in those first few years of life actually help shape how their brain develops. And that's why it's so important for childcare providers to create learning moments in real time, each and every day, that can transfer to life outside the classroom. And that means working to create and support a strong classroom to home connection.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk specifics for a minute, Sharon, and tell me about these life skills that are important for these young children. I suspect we're talking about children under the age of 8, right?
Correct. We know that in early childhood education, Andrew, that it needs to be focused on developing the whole child. And we know that we want children to be exposed to things like critical thinking, the ABCs. But we also know that when it comes to soft skills, it's really important to provide children with the opportunity for socialization, opportunities to talk about confidence, exploring children's natural curiosity. We want to help children create connections to the things around them. And when we talk about a focus on creative expression, we're talking with children and helping children become comfortable expressing what's unique about them, their ability to express ideas and thoughts. So those are some of the soft skills that the Life Essentials curriculum is focusing on.
I love it. I mean, it sounds fantastic. It sounds like that is the right and correct way to implement these kind of soft skills at an earlier age. How are parents being able to reinforce these skills at home?
You know, I think so many preschool parents have asked their child the question, "What did you do at school today?" Only to hear their child respond with nothing or "I just played." And while playing is a perfectly good reply, since we know children learn through play, as parents and family caregivers, we probably want to hear a little bit more. If as a parent, I've built a strong relationship with my child's educator, I am getting daily reports on the activities that my child is doing. I have access to look at a lesson plan, so I understand the theme, what they did in the morning versus what activities they did in the afternoon. For a parent, that puts me in a position to maybe ask a more direct question. Maybe I'm asking my child what they learned about bears, because I know that was a focus for them today. As a parent, it gives me the opportunity to take that activity. Maybe we're going to talk about what bears eat and make a snack. Maybe my child's going to teach me a bear song. I'm definitely in tune and connected to the conversations and the learning activities that my child is using each and every day in their childcare classroom. That gives me also an opportunity to share what my child's doing at home with that child's educator at drop off and pick up. And that's going to further strengthen the learning connections for my child between the academy and at home.
So let me ask you this, because we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, Sharon. If someone is watching us now and they like what you're saying and they really appreciate it, where can they go for more information to learn more about this and perhaps a a curriculum that's what you're describing close here to Memphis in the Mid-South?
So that's easy to do. Families can visit kittyacademy.com, and once they get there, they can click on Find an Academy near you. They can book a tour directly through the website, or they may want to reach out to the Academy directly and make a phone call. The number's listed on the website. The best way to experience Life Essentials curriculum and get to know what Kitty Academy has to offer is by experiencing an academy firsthand. And for more than 40 years, Kitty Academy has been a leader in providing high quality education that prepares children not just for school, but for life.
Okay, Sharon Litwinick, we appreciate your time this morning on the Digital Desk. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Our temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in. That will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower, thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. while right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena. Going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There's some new data that's been issued by MetLife and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It finds small businesses are keen to experiments with AI tools, and using AI could give them a competitive edge. This is according to some of the key findings of Q2 here. Let's bring in a couple of people to talk about this new data. I am joined right now by Jordan Crenshaw. He's the Senior VP of U.S. Chamber of Commerce Technology Engagement Center, and Karen Rafferty, Head of Regional Business Sales with MetLife. Good morning to you both. So, Karen, let me start with you here. Tell me what this data tells you.
Absolutely. We have been partnering with the U.S. Chamber on the Small Business Index since 2017. And it's a snapshot into our small business sector. It allows us to understand from small business owners what they're thinking about the economy, their biggest challenges, and how they feel about their businesses overall. Our most recent study showed the most optimism of our small business owners since 2020. And a lot of that excitement is driven by AI. We know in Tennessee that many of our small businesses are in the service industry. And our data shows that 52% of those small businesses will be looking for AI proficiencies in their future job postings.
Jordan, over to you. Tell me what you're seeing from your vantage point when it comes to small businesses and the technology and AI.
There's a huge opportunity for workers in Memphis as small businesses are embracing AI tools. 99% of companies are small businesses. And our latest Small Business Index survey results that we did along with MetLife reveal that 71% of small businesses believe that hiring workers with AI skills will save them time, and another 67% believe will help save them money. small businesses value AI proficiency, and AI is creating an environment where workers can learn new skills and then become more valuable in the job market. And I think it's interesting to note that 46% of small business owners in the South are actively planning AI training for their employees.
So let me ask you this, and let me stay with you, Jordan, for a minute here. If someone's watching this, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning on the digital desk, and someone's watching and they say, yeah, I'll work with AI. I want to get that next job. Where can they go to, be proficient in AI tools that you're talking about?
Well, AI training is going to be crucial for helping small businesses grow in the future, and 65% of businesses believe that AI will change roles in the future economy. And it's so important that employees take up small business owners on their offer of AI training. I'm even aware of small business owners themselves too who've actually gotten training and use it rather effectively off the internet. But there are also more formal trainings available too. Community colleges and local chambers of commerce are offering upskilling courses as well. So there are ample opportunities for people to learn how to use this technology for their advantage. It's a tool that's really going to help bolster the workforce, particularly as we're dealing with a tight labor market.
So, Karen, I want to ask you, what are you seeing in terms of AI tools that people are gravitating to? And when I say people, I mean small businesses. I mean, we know about ChatGPT. Anything else out there?
Absolutely. I believe that small businesses are looking at ways that they can increase their productivity without having to, fully compete against larger industries overall. And so our small business owners are really concentrated on how they integrate this with their employee base and really creating opportunities through their employees' professional growth and training in AI to deliver efficiencies, but a stronger customer experience.
So let me ask you this, Karen. I mean, in this new data that was issued by MetLife, was there anything specific, any kind of AI tool that the business community mentioned, or they, wanted these employees to learn more about?
We're seeing a large gravitation to increasing their marketing ability through AI, as well as just understanding their overall customer base.
Jordan, over to you. So give me the landscape in the next, 5-10 years. Are we going to see something where almost every small business or business out there is going to have some form or fashion of AI as part of the workforce?
In terms of how small businesses are going to adopt, if you were to say a small business is not going to adopt AI today, that would be like saying a small business doesn't plan to use the internet 20 years ago. It's going to be ubiquitous, and that's why it's so important that employees at small businesses and their owners become efficient so they can have that edge.
Okay, Jordan Crenshaw and Karen Rafferty, we appreciate your time on the Action News 5 digital desk. Thanks for the deep dive on the topic and keeping us informed on what's happening with small businesses and AI tools. Anything else you guys want to mention before we let you go? I leave it open to both of you.
Well, if you'd like to learn more, you can actually visit us at uschamber.com to dive more into the report.
News 5 digital desk. Life these days can be very stressful for so many Americans. We're talking about work, inflation, politics, families, the kids' schedules. We're always on the go, right? I mean, we always have something to do. We don't have much time for ourselves. But a recent survey just released reveals that many Americans may finally be getting the message of taking those intentional moments of pause and relaxation can be good for not only the body, but for the soul. And joining me now to talk more about this is Dr. Sue Varma. She is a psychiatrist and author. She's joining us on the digital desk. So good morning, doctor. Let's talk a little bit about this survey and what were some of the findings?
Yes. So there was a study that was conducted by Harris Poll, and they did this with Lazy Boy. And what they found was that even though two-thirds of Americans feel guilty about taking time off, 90% of them said that they need it. Like they recognize that what we call moments of laziness is actually a form of self-care. So I found this fascinating that like people are recognizing and having more of a mindset shift about the importance of relaxation.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this because laziness has a negative connotation. When we talk about relaxing and when we talk about maybe doing nothing or at least focusing on something else, what are we talking about here? Because as I mentioned off the top, there's work, there's the kid schedules, there's getting stuff on the table to eat, there's buying groceries, what have you, and all that stuff adds up. What are we talking about when we don't do anything?
Yes. So just like you said, that laziness has historically had a negative connotation, but I feel like the word laziness is getting rebranded into something positive and something intentional. And it's kind of like we're taking pride and we're kind of taking and back and reclaiming our humanity because so much of what we're doing right now is the human doing and less of the human being. And the human being says, I have self-worth just because I exist. Like I don't have to do anything to prove myself to other people. And I feel like so much of that conditioning is I need to be successful, I need to achieve, I need to be on the go. And we kind of wear our achievements and accolades as badges of honor, like, oh my God, I worked these many hours. Oh my God, I didn't sleep, right? So now the real flex is saying, I took time off, I did nothing. And what that looks like is carving out intentional moments of laziness in your day or rest by dedicating spaces in your home. So it might be what I call a Zen den. It could be a corner. It could be a throw pillow, a yoga mat, a lazy boy recliner, whatever says I'm taking time off and do not disturb. Put a do not disturb sign if you have to outside the door to the family and say I'm taking time off. So it looks like both time and space carved out in your day and in your home.
And how does that help our mind and brain?
Like from head to toe, relaxation has so many benefits. We know that people live longer, those who intentionally carve out moments of rest. They're more productive. They make more money, believe it or not, like those who are working and also supplementing periods of rest. We have less inflammation in the body, less heart disease, less stroke, less dementia. People who nap 20 minutes a day are less likely to have cognitive and brain changes at earlier ages. Head to toe, less depression and anxiety. I mean, the benefits are countless. And what's key about this is we're not saying go do nothing, forever. We're saying keep doing you, right? Whatever it is that you do so well, but also just be mindful that just a few minutes of rest on a regular basis um, goes such a long way.
Where can we get more information about this? Maybe this idea of self-compassion. What is self-compassion and define it for us? And where can we get more information on ways to just disconnect?
Yes. So self-compassion is saying that I have worth simply because I exist, because I'm human. I don't have to earn this rest and relaxation. And if you're looking to create a Zen den or want to learn more about Lazy Boy, lazyboy.com is one great way. The Lazy Boy store in your area is another way. Or if you want to read about it, I dedicate a whole chapter in my book, Practical Optimism, to the idea of self-compassion and self-care.
Okay, Dr. Sue Varma, we appreciate your time this morning on the Digital Desk. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. 4 years ago, Wells Fargo created what's called the Open for Business Fund, donating roughly $420 million to help nonprofits all across the country to deliver much needed funds and guidance to thousands of small businesses so that they could stay open and plan for the future. It worked, and many of those entrepreneurs who were living paycheck to paycheck are now building wealth here. I am joined by a former Olympian, a gold medalist, and someone who went from the Olympic stage to an entrepreneur, building a business, and a successful one at that. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Dominique Dawes. She was a member of the Magnificent Seven in 1996, got Olympic gold. She is now the owner and CEO of Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academies. Dominique, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. And I'm here at my Clarksburg location, and there's a lot of energy and excitement in the room as summer camps are going on.
I bet. So tell me about your journey and your path to a thriving small business.
Well, the seed was planted as a young person. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather owned a business, my dad owned a business, and my uncles owned businesses. And so I saw firsthand the hard work, the sacrifice, and the commitment that it took to ensure that the small business was doing well. It wasn't until I wanted to be a part of the positive culture change in the sport of gymnastics that my husband and I made this commitment to open our first of many gymnastics academies. They're called the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy. Our first location that I'm sitting at right now opened July 2020 in the middle of the global pandemic. And so I can relate to what many small businesses were going through at that time. And as you mentioned earlier, Wells Fargo Open for Business Fund has helped so many small businesses, I think in upwards of 336,000 small businesses throughout the nation, $420 million in funding, and $1.1 million in free counseling and mentorship to ensure that those doors were open and they could continue to make a positive impact in the community. So I commend Wells Fargo and what they've done and what they continue to do to help support small businesses.
What is your advice to those entrepreneurs out there that perhaps want to start a small business of their own?
You know, it's a journey. It's definitely not a sprint, and you got to realize there's going to be highs and lows. I ended my gymnastics career after the 2000 Olympic Games. I went through a period of time where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I only knew about flipping and wearing a leotard in my life at that time. I developed a passion for motivational speaking, and then eventually when all the negativity came out in the sport of gymnastics about the abuses in 2016, it was then that the seed was planted for me to open my first of many different gymnastics academies called the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy, trying to do things the right way, having a positive, encouraging, and compassionate culture. And it really starts with bringing in the right team of people that care about the well-being of the kids versus just medals and money. And that's what I would say to small businesses out there, entrepreneurs. Care about your why, care about your vision, and care about the impact that you're going to make at the end of the day.
What is the biggest mistake some entrepreneurs and small business owners do that you want to tell them to avoid?
You know, I'm not an expert at this. I've been running this business now for 4+ years, and I also have been a brand since the 1996 Olympic Games. But the first thing that comes to mind is recognize you can't do it alone. You know, the sport of gymnastics was an individual sport, so it really did create a mentality of me, myself, and I. And it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur that I realized I've got to rely on other people. I'm currently CEO, but I'm stepping out of this role to become more of the brand ambassador. And as a CEO, when I took that on for 4+ years, I had to learn to trust. I had to learn to delegate. I had to learn to hire the right team around me. And those that believed in the vision and the why and the goals, they have to make sure you're on the same page. So for entrepreneurs out there, just realize you don't want to go through this journey alone. Get out there and get funding and support. And like I mentioned earlier, Wells Fargo's Open for Business Fund is there to support small businesses, those that are diverse or low or median income related small businesses. You guys are available for funding. So you can go to stories.wf.com/OFB to get more information and also read about these amazing small businesses that have been positively impacted by this fund.
I can't have you on the digital desk, Dominique, without asking you about the current Team USA Olympics and certainly the gymnastics squad. It brings a smile to everybody's face, and it brings a smile to your face. Care to weigh in on what it was like watching this year's team?
It was exciting. I love being an Olympic fan now. I love not wearing a leotard and feeling the pressure and the weight of the world on my shoulders. And just to travel around as I was doing some work with my family and being at different hotel rooms, different cities, and cheering on Team USA, not only for gymnastics, but some other non-traditional sports, synchronized swimming, synchronized diving, table tennis, breaking. That was entertaining. So we had a fun time. We built amazing memories. And honestly, I commend Team USA in winning a gold medal for women's gymnastics, and also Simone Biles. She went through a difficult time at the previous Olympic Games, did not fully compete because of mental health related issues. And now she stepped back in the game and she's competed in her third Olympic Games. And I'm the last female gymnast to have done that 24 years ago. So I love the fact that she's kind of followed in my footsteps, and who knows what's in store for her future.
All right, Dominique Dawes, we appreciate your time, not only reminiscing and talking about your Olympic stage success, but also about your small business success as well, and advice for all those entrepreneurs out there. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right, so here we are now. It is 10:42, 79 degrees as you take a live look from our High Five camera in downtown Memphis. I want to talk about, because the heat is coming back to Memphis and the Mid-South, I want to talk now about this interview I did about skin cancer and melanoma and ways, best practices to protect yourself out in the Memphis heat. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Today's a first alert weather day. We're experiencing some extreme heat. We got plenty of sunshine. It's been that way usually in most summer months here, and that can lead to a lot of UV radiation exposure. All that heat that we're feeling, all that sunshine, it's a form of energy the sun produces, and it certainly increases the risk for skin cancer. Let's talk about this issue more with Dr. Martin Fleming. He's a surgical oncologist at Regional One Hospital and also the division chief for surgical oncology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. Joining us on the digital desk once again, Dr. Fleming, welcome back. So let's talk about the UV rays from the sun that affect our skin. How powerful are they in the summer here in Memphis? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. And this is a great time to talk about it, given how much sun we're having in recent days and weeks. And through the summer in Memphis, we have a fairly intense amount of sunshine that delivers a large amount of UV radiation. UV just stands for ultraviolet radiation. It's radiation and light waves that you can't see, and it does cause damage to the skin. It can do a variety of things. It changes the elasticity of the skin, so it leads to wrinkles and some areas of pigmentation that are not cancerous, but it also changes the DNA of the cells within the skin that over time can lead to skin cancers.
Most of us, Dr. Fleming, have heard of melanoma. What are some of the symptoms and warning signs that people need to watch for?
Sure, there are several types of skin cancer. Skin cancer is the most common type of cancer in the world. Basal cells and squamous cells are fairly common. Melanoma is probably the most serious of the three. And we often teach physicians and patients about the ABCs of melanoma. And this is just a way of identifying it early, which is very important, and its ability to be cured. ABCs of melanoma start with A, which stands for asymmetry. B then means border irregularity. The edge of a pigmented lesion may not end abruptly, but kind of feathers out into the normal tissue. Also then leads to C, which is color variation, meaning you might have a variety of different pigments within one lesion. D means a diameter bigger than about 5 millimeters. And then E is just a catch-all for what we call evolution, meaning things are changing. Something that looked normal for a long time now doesn't look so normal anymore. And all those are indications of a lesion that need to be biopsied so that we can assure that it's not a melanoma, and if it is a melanoma, to deal with it appropriately.
Who's most at risk?
Well, certainly people out in the sun a lot are most at risk. The skin types that carry the highest risk are fair complected people, sometimes kind of freckly skin, often blonde or redheaded with blue eyes. Their skin comes from a gene pool of folks that lived much further north than the deep south we're in now. So Scotch-Irish populations that settled in this part of the country 200 years ago as farmers suffer a great deal from sun exposure. But actually, any skin can suffer from skin cancer. Even the darkest skin, African American people, Asian people, they can get melanoma, and so skin lesions shouldn't be ignored. And sun exposure still can play a role in their skin cancer development.
What about age bracket? I mean, is there more risk if you're younger or older? Does it matter age-wise?
Well, certainly the sun exposure is a cumulative event. So sun exposure that you experienced when you were a child or a teenager or a young adult contributes to your risk of skin cancer when you're 50, 60, or 70 years old. But even pediatric patients can get skin cancers and melanomas. And I've had the pleasure of working with a team at St. Jude when we have those unfortunate events. They're much rarer, but they certainly can happen. So even teenagers and young adults can have lesions that need to be seen by a dermatologist to be evaluated for possible skin cancer. But it's certainly much more common in people once they've reached 50, 60, 70 years old.
We know skin cancer, or excuse me, sunscreen is one of the best methods to protect our skin from cancers, skin cancer. Is there a certain kind of sunscreen that we should be looking for? Maybe certain ingredients that we should look for, and some ingredients that we should look out for and make sure it's not in the sunscreen. I've heard like there are certain ingredients you should not have in sunscreen too.
Yeah, most of the ingredients that are harmful to you have been taken out of sunscreens long ago. I tell patients all the time, the best sunscreen is one that you'll actually wear, because if it's sitting in the bottle, it's not doing you any good. So that has to do with a little bit of just preference. Some sunscreens are more like lotion, so they're more oily based and almost like skin hand lotion. Others are more alcohol based, so they go on, they dry, and they're more clear and feel less oily to touch. So that's just a preference. But within the different types of sunscreen, I think the highest SPF possible is important. SPF is the number you see on the bottle that stands for sun protecting factor. And the higher the number, the more sun protection you get. It's probably true that SPF 100 doesn't give you twice SPF 50, but it gives you more sun protection than SPF 50. So I do work medical activity around the world through our global surgery efforts here at UT. And my skin is not made for sun at the equator. And I use SPF 100 sunscreen, and I come back basically having gotten no sun. So it definitely works, but you have to use it. There are also some sunscreens that are designed to be more adherent in the water. There are several varieties specifically designed for people that spend a lot of time in water sports or for small children during the summer in the swimming pool. Those are great alternatives so that you don't have to keep reapplying during the day if you're going to be in and out of the water during the summertime.
When is too much sun apparent to everybody? Like, what are the factors? You know, how do you know when you've gotten too much sun?
Well, they're the obvious things. People know when they've gotten a sunburn. It's very uncomfortable. But even a small amount of sun, cumulative over time, can be detrimental in someone who is at high risk. So I tell people just avoid the intense periods of sun during the summertime if you can. Between 10 and 2 or 10 and 3, when the sun is at its highest, is when you get the most UV exposure if you're outside. So, if you're at the beach or at the lake, try to go inside around lunchtime and hang out until later in the afternoon when the sun's not quite so intense. I think it's very important that people live their lives and do the activities that they enjoy doing, that give their life meaning and give them joy, but be prudent about it. Hats are very helpful. There's clothing now that has SPF factor built into it. So if you're a fisherman or a gardener, you can wear clothing that will protect you from the sun, that's designed to be worn during hot weather, so it's not hot to wear. So all those things can be done, and just minimizing sun exposure in general is always a good idea, especially if you've already experienced some sort of skin cancer.
All right, Dr. Martin Fleming, great advice, great tips, suggestions for all of us to have a safe summer and making sure that we stay safe in the sunshine with all that sun out there. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk here on a Monday morning, which is starting off not terrible, but clouds are rolling in slowly but surely, and eventually those clouds may lead up to a chance for a few isolated showers, primarily to the west of the Mississippi River as we go through the course of the afternoon. Our temperatures in the 80s, close to 90 degrees here today. And get ready, my friends, the heat, the humidity, it's all rolling back. It's all coming back to me now, right? As we go through the next couple of days, you see the chances for rain incrementally going up. We might get a few isolated showers and storms going into your Tuesday. Wednesday, I think our best chances scattered about with showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could be quite heavy on Wednesday. A little downward trend come Thursday, another uptick on Friday as another boundary approaches us during the back end of the day on Friday, and an isolated shower or thunderstorm can't be ruled out Saturday or Sunday. So let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. Again, showers and thunderstorms out to the west of us, blowing in. That will at least bring us a chance for an isolated shower or two today. I think the best chances will be in eastern Arkansas. Of course, the clouds will also follow suit. There will still be some sunshine peaks from time to time, especially this morning, but I think this afternoon, after our initial band of showers and rumbles of thunder move through the area, the shower chances move through the area, start to see a little bit of clearing, some sunshine breaking back out by the back end of the day. Temperatures rebounding through the 80s, close to 90 in a few spots. Tomorrow morning, starting off fairly quietly, some clouds in the area, but we'll see a mixture of clouds and sunshine to get through your Tuesday. An isolated shower or thunderstorm dropping into the area during the afternoon, early evening hours of your Tuesday. Then it sets up the barrage of showers and storms that could impact their area as we head towards your Wednesday morning. Again, there's going to be a frontal boundary basically sitting right on top of us as we go into your Wednesday, and that will act as a train track for showers and thunderstorms to ride right along it, and that will keep our weather pretty unsettled for Wednesday. Now, that boundary is going to shift to the north and west as we head into your Wednesday afternoon and evening, and that sets up the big heat that will take us into the latter portion of the week. So highs today, upper 80s, feeling closer to the low 90s. Tomorrow will go lower 90s, but it will feel closer to 100. Okay, that's more typical for this time of the year. Same thing on Wednesday, but notice as we get towards Thursday and Friday, actual air temperatures middle 90s, but the off-putting part of this is the humidity coming up in a big way Thursday, Friday. Give you a first alert to the potential for first alert weather days coming up Thursday, Friday. We got a lot of outdoor activities going on. Of course, the main one being FedEx St. Jude. Be prepared for the heat if you are going to be heading out to TPC Southwind as we head towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Now, we do get a front to move through the area Friday into Saturday that will bring down the humidity levels back to typical levels, I feel like, as we head into the weekend. But still needless to say, the heat's going to be the big story, I think, as we get towards the back end of the week. While right before the tournament play starts on Thursday, Wednesday seems to be the best chances for seeing some showers and storms. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of this on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Here's a look at your forecast over the next couple of days. Of course, we're going 87 for today, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, keep in mind, we got a couple of school districts getting back into session here today. We've got our friends in East Poinsett, as well as our friends in Gosnell and also Helena, West Helena. Going back to classes here today. 87 the forecast high. We'll call it upper 80s for Helena, West Helena. Maybe a chance for a few passing showers for places like East Poinsett. We're talking Tyronza and Lepanto here today, and going up into the lower to middle 80s there in the eastern side of Poinsett County. I think, again, our best chances for rain will generally be in eastern Arkansas here today, but even, from one side of eastern Arkansas to the other, a difference of a couple of degrees, and the way the clouds will be rolling into the area. Again, Wednesday is going to be our best chances for seeing showers and storms. Going into your Thursday, it will be the heat cranking up for the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Temperatures in the middle 90s by 5 o'clock. When you factor in the humidity levels, it's likely to feel closer to 110 degrees. That will likely continue for Friday before we get another front to move through the area. See the uptick in rain chances up to 30% on Friday, down to around 10 to 20% through the weekend. Highs in the low to mid 90s, overnights in the 70s, and back to the lower 90s. Pretty typical for August standards heading into next week.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon. We got Action News 5 Midday coming up at the top of the hour with Jerry Askin and Spencer Denton. They'll take you through the next hour with your news headlines and your forecast for the week ahead. And make sure you join us once again bright and early tomorrow morning for another edition of the Digital Desk. We go from 7 until 11 each and every weekday morning here on Action News 5's Action News 5 Plus channel, all of our digital platforms, actionnews5.com, our free news app, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and Roku. And if you're an Xfinity customer, it's channel 907.